The views and opinions expressed on this channel are solely those of the host and guest and are intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only. This channel does not promote bias, hatred, or discrimination of any kind. All questions posed and thoughts shared are part of a critical thinking exercise and are not meant to offend or judge any individual or group. We encourage respectful dialogue and love for all. Please remember to think critically and engage thoughtfully. We aim to foster a positive and inclusive community where everyone feels welcome. Thank you for being a part of Risky Behavior ENT.
Risky behavior. Risky behavior.
Yo, what is up? What is up? I am up late because I promised somebody I would look into something. So here I am. So last week I did a video on Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. And I was talking about what a good job they were doing down there because last year they did a sting operation called Fool Around and Find Out. This year they did a sting operation called Poke Around and Find Out. And so last week I did a story on it. I just thought it was a good thing. I still think it's a good thing, and I'm still down. I still like that they had this sting operation where they caught all these people. Not so much the people that was just going there to, let me say this, and don't judge me. I don't really get upset about men that pay women for sex. Some guys, they got to do it. But what I was happy about in this sting operation is they was able to capture a lot of people that was going there to have sexual encounters with minors. And that's the part about that I appreciated about those investigations. Let me see. Just to give you a reminder, this is the Fool Around and Find Out one that I did.
Right now on Eyewitness News at noon. In the last hour, a major bust in a human trafficking operation. Good afternoon. I'm Darlene Jones. More than 200 people were arrested in Polk County over a 9-day stretch. Channel 9's Q McRae is live in the studio with the breaking details of how it all unfolded. Q.
Yeah, Sheriff Grady Judd is once again sending a clear message to criminals in Polk County. More than 200 people were arrested this week during the latest round of his high-profile enforcement operations. Now, the operation is called Fool Around and Find Out. Sheriff Grady Judd says his deputies worked alongside nearly 20 other law enforcement agencies to crack down on the suspects. And during the operation, 4 potential human trafficking victims were identified.
During this recent sting operation, I heard story after story that echoed so much of mine. So many of the victims that my team and I got to work with shared childhood abuse, time in the foster care system, times their family members were selling them, times that nobody would look and listen at them.
So that was a soundbite there. The Sheriff Judd said his deputy.
All right, so that's the Fool Around and Find Out. So that was last year, right? And so literally did the same sting operation back to back. They did it last year around May. They did it this year again around May. And as you can see, you had people come out that were victims that are working with different programs, organizations out there saving children and stopping people from being sex trafficked.
Also new this afternoon, a massive undercover operation in Polk County targeting human trafficking and child predators has led to 266 arrests. Investigators say 247 cases involved prostitution-related charges, while 19 suspects are accused of trying to meet minors for sex. Authorities say 108 people were arrested for soliciting sex, and detectives identified 7 potential human trafficking victims during this operation. Officials also say some suspects brought weapons, drugs, and even, in 2 cases, children to meet-up locations. One suspect stood out for what he claimed about his background.
Here's J.R. Jackman. He's 27. He's from Palmetto. He came for sex, $200. He says he has a top, did you hear that? Security clearance from the military, that he's an Air Force contractor for cybersecurity. Now, don't you feel comfortable knowing a guy with top security clearance is coming to meet a prostitute?
Detectives say the arrests highlight just how widespread the problem is. In total, 439 charges were filed, and several potential trafficking victims were identified and offered help. Authorities say operations like this one will continue.
All right. So as you can see, these are things that I thought were good things, and I'm not knowledgeable on Polk County history, right? When you're on YouTube, a lot of times, like Sheriff Judd, he talks kind of like in this funny, like old school type of no nonsense type of way. And so he's kind of popular because when he does these conferences and he's talking about the people he's arrested, he kind of does it in a funny way where he's making fun of them. And so I just say that to say this: I've only seen a certain side what they put out front. Now somebody gets in my comments and they say, Risky, before you be too happy about what Sheriff Judd is doing, you need to look up this other case. I'm like, I need to look up what other case? And so there in my comment section, they say, well, did you hear about what he did to the young lady who was a victim of being raped by her uncle? And they didn't help this girl, and they even forced her at one point to write letters to the person who had sexually assaulted her, making her apologize. They called her a liar. They even charged this young girl and had her plead guilty and stuff. And and it's just somebody typing this in the comments, just random stuff like that. And I said, well, hey, let me look it up. I thought they was making it up. It turns out.
Good afternoon. I'm Stacey Schott.
And I'm Josh Benson. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. A young woman is taking action against the Polk County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Grady Judd.
In a new federal lawsuit, she claims that detectives caused her severe emotional distress while they were investigating her rape case. News Channel 8's Stacey DeSilva joins us from the Polk County Bureau in Lakeland. Stacey, and I understand you spoke with her today.
Yeah, Stacey and Josh, that's right. Taylor Cadle is 22 years old now and a mom. She tells me that moving forward with this lawsuit was nerve-wracking, but in a way, she's relieved.
I don't want anybody to ever have to go through what I went through.
Taylor Cadle has been on both sides of the legal system, as a victim and a suspect, all before her 14th birthday.
I think it just made me really, really hard to trust people. I would say it's definitely hard to trust people, especially people that I should probably trust.
According to a federal lawsuit, her great uncle and adoptive father, Henry Cadle, sexually abused her between the ages of 9 and 13. The first time Cadle reported the crime to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, she was not believed, instead charged with giving false information to a law enforcement officer.
Law enforcement, the whole goal is safety and protection. And in this case, it was the antithesis of that.
When she was assaulted again, Taylor Cadle took pictures and video, which led to Henry Cadle's arrest and conviction. Taylor Cadle's charges were dropped. Now she is suing members of the sheriff's office on several counts, including malicious prosecution and failure to train, supervise, and discipline.
I feel some sort of relief to fight for what I believe in and what I think is right.
In response to the lawsuit, a spokesperson for the Polk County Sheriff's Office called it frivolous, saying, quote, "In this case, our deputies did an extensive investigation and made deliberate and rational decisions based upon the information and evidence we had at the time." Now, that statement went on to say the sheriff's office looks forward to, quote, vigorously defending against these baseless and fabricated allegations. The two named deputies in the lawsuit are still employed at the sheriff's office as a detective and as a lieutenant. Josh?
All righty. Okay, so I started like I said, this damn thing gonna play again. Oh, so I was like, surprise, surprise, surprise. Didn't know that. So Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd and two deputies were sued after a catastrophic failure in handling a child rape case involving a girl named Taylor Cadle. So the lawsuit argues that Polk County's actions re-victimize a child, ignore evidence, and allow a predator to continue abusing her. And you know what's so crazy about this? When I realized that when that lawsuit is coming out, right? Then here comes Polk County with the whole fool around and find out. And it's weird because in a way it got me to thinking. I was like, are they pulling, which I don't know, I can't prove nothing like this, but are they pulling these elaborate multi-agency sting operations and participating in things like this to try to cover up that lawsuit? I don't know. But that's what I want to talk about. So I'm going to go over some things because this isn't even the only lawsuit. They had another lawsuit from it was 12 years ago for jailing minors, and I'm going to go into that as well. All right. So first of all, I want to talk about this lawsuit and why it matters. Number one is going to be systemic negligence. Number two, victim blaming culture. Number three, law enforcement failures. Number four, a child being punished for reporting abuse. And number five, a predator protected by the system. Okay. So you have a 13-year-old girl reports being raped. Instead of protecting her, Polk County puts her on probation, forces her to apologize to her rapist, and leaves her in the same home where the abuse continues. And I think that's the most heartbreaking thing about this case is you have a young lady that reports being victimized. They don't believe her, call her a liar, and sends her right back into the home. I'm closing down some tabs. All right.
Sheriff and two of his deputies are being sued by a woman who says she was sexually abused for years, but when she told deputies about the abuse, she was the one charged. According to a lawsuit filed Friday, Taylor Cadle, now an adult, was sexually abused by her great uncle, who was also her adoptive father. The abuse happened from the time she was 9 years old in 2012. She came forward to police in July 2016 when she was 13, But the lawsuit says the detective assigned to her case did not believe her from the beginning and eventually charged Taylor with lying during a felony investigation. She pleaded guilty at just 13 years old and was placed on probation. 4 months later, in July of 2017, Taylor was raped again, but this time she was able to record what happened. She called 911 as soon as she got home, and her uncle was arrested. He is now 6 years into a 17-year sentence, and a judge threw out Taylor's probation. Now she's suing the detectives involved for violating her 14th Amendment right to due process and the sheriff for failure to train, supervise, and discipline. We reached out to the Polk County Sheriff's Office for comment on this case. We have not heard back.
And that's for all those people that say, "Ooh, why don't they just report it? Why they wait so long to say something?" And I get it when people say things like that, but this is the perfect example. I'm telling you. What up, Black Betty? How you doing? How you doing? It's very horrible. I could not imagine the fear. Like, as a child, you get the courage to tell, and report something, and they take you to court. It's insane. It's insane. You're a liar, and we're going to charge you, Miss Things, since you want to come down here and make up things. That's how they treated that young girl. Sent her back to the house. And think about this. The abuse would have been 10 times worse because, oh, you want to go down there and open your mouth. Oh, you want to tell on somebody. And then they sent her back into that home with the person she just told on. The abuse is going to be 10 times worse after that. Well, according to this article, let's see. Some of this is going to be, what we've already heard, but I like to go over articles as well. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd and 2 deputies are now under fire as part of a lawsuit filed over child rape case that happened nearly a decade ago, according to court records filed on Friday. And I apologize to y'all. I'm gonna keep saying grape. I don't like saying that word. That's just a funny thing about me. I don't even like seeing it in movie scenes. And I know movies are fake. I just don't even like seeing it in movies. I don't like saying the word. The lawsuit states that the victim, identified as Taylor Cadle, was adopted by her uncle and aunt back in 2012 when she was still under 9 years old. However, her uncle, identified as Henry Cadle, began inappropriately touching her with the abuse escalating to Grape several times over the next few years, the lawsuit asserts. Taylor kept the abuse a secret for years due to her overwhelming fear of being returned to foster care if she reported the Grapes. The lawsuit reads, how terrible is foster care? If, as a young child, you're weighing your options and you rather stay with your abuser than go to foster care, I think that says a lot about the foster care system right there, where at least wherever she's from, their foster care system. Not trying to assume all foster care systems are the same in every state, but some people I know is terrible from what I hear from people. It wasn't until 2016 that Taylor Cadle reported what was going on to her church minister's wife, causing the woman to contact law enforcement, court records show. What followed was months-long investigation, though the detective assigned to the case decided there wasn't enough evidence to support a criminal charge against Henry Cadle, the lawsuit states. This is, however, enough probable cause to establish Taylor Cadle lied during a felony investigation, the detective wrote. It was determined Taylor falsified information in the initial investigation and all lab results turned negative. And what's so sad about this? Why that part right there, if you didn't have sufficient evidence, people could understand that. But why does it turn to now let's punish this little girl? Not just, look, we don't have enough evidence. but we're gonna keep an eye on him. He at least knows he's under investigation. We just don't have enough evidence right now to arrest him and charge him with anything. Why did it turn so ugly and turn to an attack on the little girl is the part that disturbs me. In the court case that followed, Taylor Cadle's aunt pushed her to plead guilty. Just get the case over with, the lawsuit reveals. So now she's being charged, and the people that live in the house where she was being abused are the people that is giving counsel to her and telling her to plead guilty. This little girl was failed in so many ways. Thus, at the age of 13 years old, Taylor Cadle pled guilty to giving false information to a law enforcement officer, landing her on probation and keeping her with Henry Cadle, court records say. So she reported the crime. They don't find enough evidence. Instead of them still keeping an eye on her and doing what they can do, they say, well, nah, you must have lied. And then she ended up on probation. And the abuser gets to go on with their life and continue abusing. Per the lawsuit, the conditions of her probation included a curfew, community service, anger management counseling, and letters of apology to Henry Cadle and the sheriff's office. So not only do she got to go back to the home of her abuser, she got a curfew. So she got to go home early to her abuser. That's crazy. This girl they punished this girl. Community service, anger management. Why would she need anger management? Straight up punish this girl. And think about the psychological behind this is that you know for a fact that you're a victim. You're forced to plead guilty, and then they drill it into your mind even further, right? These are the letters that she had to write to the person that abused her. Shout out Black Betty. I my bad. I just now read your comment. These are letters that she had to write. Dear Dad, I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't stop and think of my consequences of these actions. This will not happen again, and I'm sorry. Taylor Cadle. She wrote this in 2017. Yep, June 29th. I think these two different letters. This must have been one where she messed up, so they made her rewrite it. Oh, no. One's Dear Dad, one's to the I guess one is to the officers. Dear offices, but she wrote, Dear offices, I'm sorry for my actions. I know what I did wasn't right. Therefore, I face my consequences. This will never happen again. Taylor Cadle, and this happened in June 29th, 2017. Wow. Oh my God. She must have been inside her head screaming, why is nobody listening to me? But this girl is a gangster. She's a G. Because she didn't let this stuff get into her head. She wrote a letter. She did what she had to do, but she ended up getting this dude because she recorded them. She stayed alert and aware. Less than a month later, though, Henry Cadle again raped Taylor Cadle in his truck. But this time, the girl secretly recorded the incident via video footage and photographs, the lawsuit says. That same night, Taylor Cadle called 911 to report the Grape. And after Henry Cadle admitted to being in her photographs, the sheriff's office moved to withdraw her guilty plea and vacate her probation. The lawsuit continues. Upon being shown the video and pictures, Henry Cadle confirmed it was him in the pictures and advised, "She set me up." An arrest affidavit reads. In 2019, Henry Cadle was ultimately sentenced to 17 years in prison for sexual battery. Now look at this dude mugshot. Shout out Drex Wiz says, "I think the apology is fine." No, the little girl at you think is a fine for a victim to apologize to the person that was the predator? I don't know about that. I don't think that's fine. You can look at this dude mugshot. That would be all the evidence I need. Just looking at this guy would be all the evidence I would have needed as a seasoned detective. Now Taylor Cadle is suing the detectives involved in her case, along with Henry Cadle and Sheriff Judd. In her lawsuit, Taylor accuses the sheriff's office of unlawful practices, taking particular aim at Judd's policies. Sheriff Judd knowingly encouraged and authorized members of the PCSO to disregard and violate constitutional and Fourth Amendment rights of victims, particularly minors, with his tough on crime rhetoric and criminalization of minors for making false statements, the lawsuit reads. In addition, the lawsuit argues that detectives weren't properly trained on how to approach child sexual abuse cases. As such, the lawsuit makes accusations of malicious persecution, as well as failure to train and properly investigate these sorts of incidents. There are also accusations levied against Henry Cadle for Grape, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. The lawsuit seeks money judgments against Henry Cadle, judge, and the other two detectives who were involved in the case. On Tuesday, News 6 received the following statement from Polk County Sheriff's Office about the lawsuit. Now, as far as I wonder how hands-on Sheriff Grady Judd would have been in the investigation as well. I definitely would put this on the two officers that were working the case. But maybe he's I guess he's in charge of them. So I guess, he has to take accountability what his office does. As for the two detectives named in the lawsuit, the sheriff's office stated that they are still employed by the agency. They continue to honorably put their lives on the line to protect the citizens of Polk County from harm and hold criminals accountable, the sheriff's office said. Meanwhile, the full lawsuit has been attached to this story and can be read below. All right. United States District Court for the Middle District of Florida Civil Division. Taylor Cadle, plaintiff versus Grady Judd. And in his individual capacity and official capacity, Melissa Turnage in her individual capacity and official capacity, William Rushing in his individual capacity and official capacity, and Henry Cadle and John Doe's 1 through 10. So it seemed like it was a lady officer working that case as well. All right. And so this is just, I'm not even going to read all this, but I will scroll through it. All right. It's crazy. When they type these damn things up, I wonder whose job it is to type all this stuff up. I want to say shout out to everybody in the building. If you could, make sure you thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. All right. All right, factual allegations. All right. Plaintiff was born on October the 11th in 2003. They're talking about Taylor. When she was approximately 7 years of age, plaintiff was removed from her mother's care and placed in the custody of the Florida Department of Children and Families, where she spent a year and a half in multiple foster homes. So obviously she comes from a home that had some issues. She was taken from her mother at 7, and she was placed in multiple foster homes. So, didn't have anything stable. On October the 9th, 2012, plaintiff was formally adopted by her paternal great uncle, defendant Henry Cadle, and great aunt Lisa Cadle, and moved with them into their home in Polk County, Florida. All right. It says when plaintiff was approximately 9 years old, defendant Cadle began inappropriately touching her. When the abuse escalated to Grape on countless occasions over the course of 3 years, plaintiff was sexually abused by defendant Cadle from the ages 9 to 13, from approximately 2013 to 2017. The sexual abuse and Grape often transpired when defendant Cadle took plaintiff on rides with him in his truck, where he would pull off and park on hidden roads to sexually abuse her. Plaintiff kept the abuse a secret for years due to her overwhelming fear of being returned to foster care if she reported the Grapes. Was also in this report on July 31st, 2016, when plaintiff was 12 years old. She disclosed to her church minister's wife that her adoptive father and paternal great uncle, defendant Cadle, had been sexually abusing her for years. The minister called the police. Upon arrival, plaintiff told the initial Polk County Sheriff's Office deputies to arrive on the scene that defendant Cadle had been having her undressed for him, and that the night prior, July 30th, 2016, when she was in his vehicle, he attempted to penetrate her with his, and he EJ that word on her. That feels weird reading that about a little girl. I don't want to. You can probably see it on your screen. You can read it for yourself. I don't want to say that. Plaintiff also disclosed, basically he was in the vehicle. He tried to enter. He pleased himself. Okay. That's what he did. Plaintiff also disclosed that the sexual abuse occurred on the side of the road in defendant Cadle's vehicle, where he would pull over and make her climb in the front seat and have sex with her, and that if a vehicle was coming, she had to hide on the floorboard, and he would act like he was peeing. Plaintiff stated that defendant Cadle would always force her to go with him in his car when she did not want to, that she had lost count of how many times it had occurred, and the sexual abuse started when she was approximately 9 years old. So a lot was going on. Defendant Detective Turnage was assigned to investigate the case on behalf of Polk County Sheriff's Office. And they got these things numbered. So this is 26. Some of the earlier stuff that I didn't read was just stating, let's say I'm on 26. Some of the other stuff I didn't read was just stating the positions of people that are in the case, So like I say, at all times relevant to the events described in this complaint, the acts and omissions of the defendant, Detective Rushing, described in this complaint were committed under the color of law within the scope of his employment as a duly appointed PCSO employee. So it's just stating them being involved during this time frame in which this lawsuit covers. Let's see. So I'm on 27. So On July 30th, 2016, defendant Turnage conducted a screening wherein the plaintiff, at this time a 12-year-old child, advised that defendant Cadle touched her in places she should not be touched and touched her parts with his parts. Plaintiff told defendant Detective Turnage that defendant Cadle put a condom on himself when he does things to her private. The plaintiff, too ashamed to state what the plaintiff, too ashamed to state what the defendant Cadle would say to her when he graped her, wrote on a piece of paper for defendant Detective Turnage that defendant Cadle, he would tell her to, oh man, I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna say that. For those of you who can read it, read it. I ain't gonna say what he told her to say. The plaintiff also gave defendant Detective Turnage a statement consistent with the statement she made to the initial deputy to arrive on scene, describing how the grapes happened on the side of the road in defendant Cadle's vehicle, and about defendant Cadle's pretending to urinate and making her hide on the floorboard when a car passed by the vehicle. You know what? What's insane about all of this? What 12-year-old girl is going to make up something like that? Like, where would she get that from? Like, it's crazy that, like, the conversation she had with these detectives, and to say like, oh, this girl, she's a liar. First of all, if she was a liar, she would just be a liar. She would just lie. She, like, the whole being ashamed to say certain things, to be afraid, you having to work with her and say, hey, it's okay, just write it on a piece of paper. Like, come on. These detectives, they were just assholes. They were just mean people and just don't care. I mean, I don't know. Maybe let's keep reading. I don't know why it doesn't seem like this girl would be lying or said anything that would make them think she's lying. I don't know. All right, so number 28, defendant Turnage subsequently interviewed defendant Cadle. So the detective went and spoke to the great uncle. So when it says defendant Cadle is talking about the uncle, when it says plaintiff Cadle is talking about Taylor, the victim. Despite evidence provided to her by plaintiff Detective Turnage, and so Turnage is the female detective at that. And I don't know why, maybe that shouldn't matter, but it's kind of weird to me when also you're talking about a woman and she's, this little girl. I think that would hurt her even more too, being a little girl, you're giving a woman detective, and you would think she would be a little bit more sensitive or understanding. And it don't seem like they had that, it don't seem like that woman detective gave a shit about any of that. So Detective Turnage stated basically Taylor, talking about the plaintiff, I guess, has made up these allegations, okay, that you have been sexually abusing her. So I'll read that again. Despite the evidence provided to her by plaintiff, Detective Turnage stated, basically, Taylor, I guess, has made up these allegations, okay, that you have been sexually abusing her. This is a detective talking about the victim to the uncle, the person that Taylor is saying is abusing her. Thus, the assigned law enforcement officer to investigate a contemporaneous report of child sexual abuse made clear that she already did not believe plaintiff upon the initiation of her investigation, a position that colored every subsequent dereliction of her duties throughout her work on the case. For reasons that can only be examined by the PCSO's failures to appropriately train, supervise, and discipline officers. So I guess basically what it's saying, they can tell from this statement that she never believed the young lady, and therefore she couldn't have taken it seriously, and she couldn't have properly been investigating this case because she had a non-belief. So I guess it's like saying she has a bias. So what, you know, so even when she questioned the uncle, what evidence would she have been able to get from the uncle or make him confess to anything? She's talking to somebody that potentially raped a young girl, right? That's what she's investigating. And she's sharing with him, or like, talking to him like, like that. Like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I gotta come talk to you because Taylor is making up things about you. This is how like she's talking to this guy. She didn't properly investigate anything in this case. Let's see. 29. When defendant Detective Turnage asked defendant Cadle if he would be willing to take a polygraph test, defendant Cadle said no, specifically responding, "I've had sex with a lot of people in the shower with my eyes closed, if you know what I mean. I'm a man." That's his response. And they still said that they think this young girl was lying. When the Detective Turnage asked defendant Cadle, the uncle, if he would be willing to take a polygraph test, defendant Cadle, the uncle, said no, specifically responding, "I've had sex with a lot of people in the shower with my eyes closed, if you know what I mean. I'm a man." I don't know what the fuck that means. If someone says, "Hey, we want to we want to give you a polygraph test because your niece is accusing you of sexually assaulting her," you say no, "I've had sex with a lot of people in the shower with my eyes closed." What are you saying? You saying one of them could have been your niece? Like, what are you saying? That's insane. Defendant Detective Turnage did not question or investigate what defendant Cadle meant by this suggestive and strange commentary. She didn't even question it. On August 3rd, 2016, during a recorded forensic interview, plaintiff gave a third consistent statement about defendant Cadle's sexual abuse. So this is also what's important, is that Taylor, the young lady, the plaintiff, third consistent statement. So she's shown consistency. When they bring her back and they re-question her, asking her to go over everything that happened, but they're calling her a liar, and they actually convinced her to plead guilty, saying, she gave false information to law enforcement officers and put this young girl on probation. Defendant Detective Turnage contemporaneously observed plaintiff's recorded forensic interview, writing a summary of plaintiff's exceedingly detailed recitation of defendant Cadle's sexual abuse in her police report. The summary stated as follows. So this is what the detective lady wrote. Taylor stated her dad touched her private area with his private. Taylor advised they were in the car and were coming back from the hospital and pulled over to the side of the road. He, Cadle, then told her to get in the front seat and put something on his thing and he put it in her. Taylor stated they were coming from Trinity Hospital and he stopped at a store. They did not have what he wanted to buy and was upset. Taylor says they stopped at a handy store gas station and he, Cadle, bought condoms. Taylor stated she knows where the handy store is located because it is across the street from where her sister lives. Taylor advised when he, Cadle, came out of the store, his pocket was bulky and he was playing with the keys in his hand. When he got in the car, he, Cadle, pulled out a box of condoms, which had 3 located inside. Taylor stated he put them in the driver's door pocket. The condoms were grayish in color and said lifestyles. Taylor advised he opened a wrapper and threw it behind him and put it on his thingy. So the condoms were grayish in color and said lifestyles. Taylor advised he opened a wrapper and threw it behind him and put it on his thing. This is disturbing. Let's see. My bad. When I zoomed in, it took me down a couple of pages. Taylor advised when he, Cadle, got back in the truck, then said car, the interior light was on. Taylor advised when he, Cadle, got back in the truck, then said car, the interior light was on. The keys were left in the car with the vehicle running the AC. Taylor says when they were on the way home, he pulled off the side of the road where there were no houses or traffic. Taylor advised they went past a driveway and pulled over just past it. And there were 4 tires. There were 4 tires on Rock Ridge Road. Taylor advised he then got out of the truck and opened the back door and the front door and threw the box and put the rest in the car door. Taylor advised he then told her to pull her pants down and she said no. And he then said, I told you to do it and do it now. Okay. Taylor stated he, Cadle, kept his pants on. Taylor advised he was doing the act. She saw his thingy. This is disturbing. How could any detective write this and you think all this is made up? So Taylor advised when he was doing the act, she described seeing his member, and she even described seeing the veins. And then she told the detective what he told her. Well, she didn't tell the detective. I don't know if y'all can see it, but he told her, he was speaking to her very explicitly to the point where the young girl said she didn't even feel comfortable saying it. And so the detective told her to write it on a piece of paper. But I don't want to say it. Taylor stated he was shaking and panting and his legs were shaking and white gooey stuff came out and it got on his face. This is I could not be on the jury in one of these cases. Like if this is the stuff they're reporting, I'd be like, Yana, I just be like guilty. They wouldn't want me up there. I'd be like guilty. They'd be like, you don't want to hit the rest? I'd be like, nah, just guilty. I'm voting now. I'm gonna vote early. I don't even need to hear closing arguments. Guilty. Taylor advised when he was done, he threw it in the grass. Taylor then climbed over the console to the back seat and he walked to the front of the car and got in and turned on the AC. So Taylor then climbed over the console to the back seat, and he walked to the front of the car and got in and turned on the AC. So this young girl is describing these horrible things, and this detective just didn't take any of it seriously and still called this young girl a liar. Like this, oh my God. Taylor stated the first time happened when she was sick and she was in the bed, and her mom does not like to sleep with her because she sleeps like an octopus and gives off heat. Taylor advised when she was asleep, Cadle, the uncle, came in and she felt the bed move and saw the light turn on and then turn off. Taylor stated he put his hand on her and it freaked her out, and he put his hand over her mouth. Taylor advised during this incident, Cadle was touching the top part of it and nothing went inside of her. Taylor stated he was using his finger and, rubbing back and forth. Taylor advised this happened when she was 9 and everyone was in the house. Mom, dad, Cadle, her, and her brother. Taylor advised another incident was when she told him, Cadle, she would never touch him and he could not force her to do it. Taylor stated they were driving down the road and she was in the back seat and he told her to get into the front seat. Taylor advised he told her, you need to do more. You are almost 12 years old. Don't play dumb. So this old dude told a little girl, you need to do more. You almost 12 years old. Don't play dumb. This is what he thinks about a 12-year-old. He's a sick puppy. He's a sick puppy. Taylor stated, no, I don't. And he then replied, yes, you do. Taylor stated he then unzipped his pants and pulled his. This guy's disgusting. He pulled his member out and he told her to touch it. Taylor advised, he said, do it, touch it. And he called her a 304. Taylor stated he has never called her names before. So all of this is just depressing. It's only 2 more paragraphs. I get through it. I feel like bad just reading this shit. I feel like I could get in trouble. Like I could be, I don't know. Like I could be arrested for just reading this. This is terrible. Taylor stated on another incident, Cadle, the uncle, touched her on the outside of her shirt and was told one day he would have him lick her, what do you say, lick her boobs or her thing? So now he's talking. Taylor advised he was in his room one day and he touched, her boobs while he was sitting there making himself. Oh my God. Taylor stated he would hold his member and move his hands on himself. Taylor advised he would put baby oil on himself. So this is the other Diddy. And her private, since it would make it go easier. Taylor then advised he would put on a condom. Taylor stated she does not know the number of times it has happened. Taylor advised one time Cadle tried to put it in and it hurt. Taylor stated they were at his work and they went to go pick up pizza and she was made to sit in a chair backwards with her knees on the chair. Taylor advised okay. So now Taylor advised that, he put it he backside. He put it the backside, and he told her to shut up and, be quiet. Taylor stated he was standing up and he was behind her, and he tried to put it in, but she screamed because it hurt. It was painful. Taylor advised it. I don't want to read the rest of this. It's on the screen. You can read it. I can't read it. I'm glad that that part is over. Basically, it described, I don't even want to say what it described. Fuck that. I'm moving on. But I can't believe a detective wrote down all of that horrible shit and then still chose to say that this little girl was lying. Like, I for her to be lying, do you realize how fucking crazy her imagination would have to be? That even if she were lying, right? The answer would be therapy and help as to where do these stories even come from, right? This shows just complete negligence, lack of care. This detective just didn't give a fuck. And that's just bottom line. It's no way you could believe that that young girl was lying. And if you thought she was truly lying and she can make up that kind of crazy shit, you would lock her up. And have somebody study her to see why all those things are in her mind. So number 32 on August 16th, 2016, defendant Detective Turnage conducted what she described in her police report as a clarification interview with plaintiff. Defendant Detective Turnage told plaintiff that her cell phone records show she was texting continuously at the time she said she was sexually abused. Plaintiff responded that she uses the phone as a way to avoid interacting with defendant Cadle during the incident. In response to defendant Detective Turnage's questioning, plaintiff asked to the veracity of her story. Plaintiff responded, "I'm telling the truth. I cannot help it if you cannot find the evidence." So, first, this detective a piece of shit. You were texting that. Like, okay. On December the 14th, 2016, the defendant Detective Turnage conducted a recorded interview of plaintiff, now a 13-year-old girl, at plaintiff's home. Before this interview, plaintiff was not read her Miranda rights, nor was she provided an attorney or access to an attorney. During the interview, where plaintiff provided her fourth consistent affirmation that she was sexually abused, defendant Detective Turnage explicitly threatened plaintiff that if she was lying, for her life and the lives of others would be destroyed, and accused plaintiff of lying. Wow. So this detective lady, Detective Turnage, explicitly threatened plaintiff, the 13-year-old girl, that if she was lying, her life and the lives of others would be destroyed, and accused plaintiff of lying to coerce her to recant and state she had made up her disclosures of sexual abuse. Defendant Detective Turnage also warned plaintiff that if she continued to accuse defendant Cadle, there would be consequences, angrily stating to plaintiff in a recorded interview, "Do you want to go back to foster care? Because more than likely, if he's arrested, they're not going to let you stay here if it's not the truth. You're fixing to hurt a lot of people." Wow. During defendant Detective Turner's interrogation of plaintiff, she also stated as follows. That this kind of, like, I know I said before, I was like, I wonder how hands-on Grady Judge was with this investigation, this case. But I can see why, even if he wasn't, he and just the whole department should be sued, right? Because this detective is doing all this while being recorded and writing this shit down. And being recorded, writing things down, reading and going over her own statements, not once sparked any idea in her mind. Maybe I'm doing this the wrong way. Maybe I should really investigate this. This is a young child. I did take an oath to serve and protect. It is my job to catch criminals. Maybe I should do my job. Maybe it doesn't look too good if I'm recorded threatening a young child. Says a lot about the department. That's all I can say. During defendant Detective Turner's interrogation of plaintiff, she also stated as follows. What's going on, Taylor? This is her talking to the plaintiff, the little girl. What's going on, Taylor? Because you understand, if your dad, defendant Cadle, goes to jail, he doesn't come back at all. Okay? That accusation you're making since you are 12 years old, and this has been going on since you were 9, he goes to jail. He doesn't come back at all. So that means you, your brother, and your mom don't have him at all. If you're mad because you got your phone taken away, let's say that now and be done with it. Because I have 3 stories that you say you like to be with your dad, your daddy's little girl. You love to go with him because you like to get out of the house. But if it's not the truth, you're fixing to hurt a lot of people. A lot of people. Your mom's not going to have her car. Your dad's car is going to get taken. Your dad's not going to be able the lawn business. Your dad's not going to be able, the lawn business is gone. Your mom's going to have to deal with you and your brother going to school. School starts in 2 weeks in Polk County. 3. Oh my God. You're not gonna be able to have your shoes that you want for school. What are those? The Rolls-Royce Nike shoes? You're not gonna be able to get those bracelets. You're not gonna be able to get those braces. I hear you want braces or need braces. What is it, Taylor? I mean, we had to deal with your poor mom crying out there because we had to tell her that you're saying that your dad's been having sex with you since you were 9. That broke her heart. It would break her heart even more if it's not true. So she's coercing this young girl, right? Don't this sound like something a predator would say? Like, hey, don't tell nobody because you just going to hurt your mom, or I'll hurt your mom, or I'll hurt you. These things a predator says. In response to defendant Turner's questions, plaintiff again reaffirmed the veracity of defendant Cadle's sexual abuse, stating everything I told you earlier is not a lie. I told y'all this girl was a gangster. She stood on what she said. She said what she said. And even after all this, them forcing her to plead guilty, even after all this, she still stayed aware. She said, that's cool. They don't believe me now. They're going to send me back to that house. It's all good. I'm going to record this motherfucker and I'm going to get him in trouble. And that's exactly what she did. even after all this, and them charging her and forcing her to coercing her to plead guilty to giving a false statement to law enforcement and put that girl on probation and sent her back to the home with the person that she had been accusing of sexually abusing her. And that girl still had good sense enough to say, you know what, this ain't over with. I'm still gonna get him. And she recorded him, and then so they locked him up again. What, 17 years? I don't think it's enough, but whatever. Oh man, what up? What up? What up? What up? I got my brother, Mr. Marcus Banks, in the building. What up, bro? My bad. I ain't see the comment. I was reading this. Oh my god, I'm reading it horrible. Horrible. Oh my god. I was reading this horrible statement, man. Let's see. 37 says defendant Detective Turnage completely disregarded plaintiff's exceedingly graphic and detailed and consistent descriptions of defendant Cadle's sexual abuse, advising the plaintiff that because the rape kit came back with no evidence of defendant Cadle's DNA, and that if it had happened, there would have DNA found, so the case would not be charged. In fact, grape kits often do not show the evidence of abuser's DNA. And in plaintiff's case, a condom was used and the grape kit was performed more than 24 hours after the most recent grape, which would have served to minimize the presence of DNA. Studies have found that for grape kits that do get submitted for processing, and many often are not submitted at all, as few as 25% are returned with a sufficient quality and quantity of DNA to be tested further. Such a fundamental misunderstanding of forensic evidence by defendant Detective Turnage can only be explained by utter failure on the part of the PCSO to adequately train and supervise their law enforcement officers. I also think it's just a lack of common sense. I'm not trained, but I would assume that if I submitted a grape test, right, and it came back with no DNA, well, I talked to the young lady, and the young lady said he always had condoms. She also described sexual abuse where he did not necessarily enter her. He would please himself while touching her. So might not be no DNA. And it was like, and it's been more than 24 hours. This girl might have taken a shower, a bath. Might not be no DNA. That's just common sense. So this lady just don't give a damn. She just don't care. That's all it is. She don't care. She didn't care about this young lady at all. For whatever weird, sick reason, this detective did not care. Let's see. Further, it is the law in the state of Florida that the uncorroborated testimony of a survivor of sexual assault alone is sufficient to obtain a conviction. CFS 794.022 defendant Detective Turnage either did not know or did not care that this is the law, and instead willfully and recklessly pressured plaintiff by suggesting to her that corroboration independent of her statements was needed. During the conversation, which was recorded, defendant Detective Turnage said to plaintiff, "I'm not saying you're lying. I just want to know why. If everything you said is true, why am I not finding anything? To which the plaintiff responded, I don't know. I swear on my life it happened. After speaking with plaintiff, defendant Detective Turnage then advised Lisa Cadle that she planned to move forward with criminal charges against plaintiff for lying to a law enforcement officer about a felony. Wow. What is this freaking bug flying in my face? So that's crazy. So I don't know what it is. It's like the detective knows. It's like she knows them because she's talking to Lisa Cadle, which is the wife of the uncle. Like, yeah, you know what? Moving forward, I'm about to press charges against her. And when she first started the investigation, well, when she first went to go speak to the uncle after Taylor, the niece, had accused him, when she first went to go speak to him, she tells him, yeah, I don't know why she down there lying on you saying that you touched her. What's this 42? Let me go back up to it and see. When she first sat down and talked to him, what's that she said? Okay, here it go. 28. So defendant Turnage subsequently she interviewed defendant Cadle, the uncle, despite the evidence provided to her by plaintiff Taylor, the little girl. Despite the evidence provided by the little girl, Detective Turnage stated, this is her talking to the uncle. Basically, Taylor, I guess, has made up these allegations, okay, that you have been sexually abusing her. This is how she goes to speak to the person that's being accused of raping a young girl. That's what she says to him. That's how sick she is. This is the tech. Let me see. Uh-oh. No, I don't want to do that. All right. I do not. Oh man. I'll save that for later. My bad. I clicked on the thing and it was taking me where you can download it and print it. If you click that, it'll take it where you can print it out if you want to. I don't want to print that out. Where I was at, 42. Okay. All right. After speaking with plaintiff, defendant Detective Turnage then advised Lisa Cadle that she planned to move forward with criminal charges against plaintiff for lying to law enforcement officer about a felony on December 14, 2016. The conclusion section of defendant Detective Turnage's police report stated, based on the facts gathered and the available evidence, there is not enough to support the elements of a criminal charge against Henry Cadle. There is, however, enough probable cause to establish Taylor Cadle lied during a felony investigation. It was determined Taylor falsified information in the initial investigation and all lab results returned negative. So this lady, oh my God, she's evil. She had no evidence of anything. Just because them test results came back negative where no DNA was present, how would that mean that this young girl is lying? Why would that be her conclusion? All right. So this is from the Polk County Sheriff's Office narrative. This was submitted December 14, 2016, 1600 hours. trying to read these small letters. I responded to 556 Emporia. Well, I don't want to say nobody address. Well, I mean, it's already on the screen. But anyway, I conducted a recorded classification interview. I forgot I got it on my screen. I conducted a recorded classification interview with Taylor Cadle, and she put here white female, age 13. Taylor advised she is not making this up, and it all happened. Taylor was asked again about the incident and if there was anything she left out. Taylor stated she brought the two extra condoms, which were purchased by Henry, into the residence and hid them. In her original statement, Taylor advised Henry had them in the driver's door of the vehicle, but did not mention anything about them being brought into the residence. Taylor recounted where they were purchased at the handy store, and the brand was Trojan. In her original statement, she advised the brand which was purchased were Lifestyles. Taylor also made statements about how she got into trouble with Lisa a couple of weeks prior to the incident. Taylor stated a condom wrapper was located in her dresser drawer, and Lisa became upset. There was no mention about this during the original statements. So this is 1600. What's that? What, 4? Then you got 16, 20 hours. I conducted a recorded interview with Lisa, white female, age 52, to clarify about the condom located in the dresser. Lisa stated there was no incident in regards to a condom. Lisa advised she would have flipped her lid if a condom wrapper was located in her dresser. Criminal history. There's no criminal history for Henry Cadle. And it says DCF 2015-104393, physical injury, sexual abuse, no incidents. I don't know what all this means. But the conclusion, based on the facts gathered and the available evidence, there is not enough to support the elements of a criminal charge against Henry Cadle. There is, however, enough probable cause to establish Taylor Cadle lied during a felony investigation. It was determined Taylor falsified information in the initial investigation, and all lab results returned negative. I don't know. That's a little girl, 12-year-old. She might not remember things like that. And I think she's describing so many different incidents. It probably was lifestyle, and in one case it probably was what's the other one called? Trojan. So it's probably multiple things. She's a little girl. She's not if she's having incidents from the age of 9 to 12 as a little girl, first of all, they should have had the proper resources and brought somebody in there that is, and this goes back what they're suing for, not being well trained. Should have had somebody that's a professional coming there that can get these stories from kids, because you're talking about somebody that this is happening from the age of 9 to the age of 13. It's no telling how her brain has those stories in her brain, how she's remembering them. She might be mixing up stories, telling two stories as if they're one, but it actually happened. So that's why you have to have professionals in there talking when it comes to children. All right. And so this is going over. So the detective signed and swore and affirmed her report, which was signed off on by defendant Detective Rushing. So the female, so this is when the male detective comes in to the story. 2 days later, on December 16th, 2016, defendant Detective Turner submitted a signed and sworn affidavit that was co-signed by defendant Detective Rushing, claiming that the PCSO had probable cause to charge the plaintiff with giving false information to a law enforcement officer, a first-degree misdemeanor in the state of Florida. The affidavit of probable cause alleged that the victim of the crime was the Polk County Sheriff's Office, and specifically stated, due to the extent of the investigation and all investigative leads showing the victim provided false information, it was determined the victim violated FSS 837 dot 055, giving false information to a law enforcement officer during a criminal felony investigation. These people are psychopaths. Made the damn victim. They gonna charge us. The Polk County said we the victim. Ain't that something? Upon the inception of plaintiffs' disclosure of defendant Cadle's abuse, the Florida Department of Children and Families opened an investigation. However, the Florida Department of Children and Families relied on defendant Detective Turnage's findings closing the case because defendant Detective Turnage did not find evidence of abuse. Wow. So any help that this young girl could get, all those doors were closed because of this detective and their bad work and lack of knowing anything. On February 22nd, 2017, while unrepresented by counsel or neutral guardian and without legal advice, plaintiff and her adoptive mother, Lisa Cadle, signed a waiver of speedy trial with 90 days if she referred and accepted into a diversionary program. On February 22nd, 2017, defendant Cadle, plaintiff sexual molester, defendant Cadle, and Lisa Cadle signed a Florida Department of Juvenile Justice waiver form agreeing to waive the plaintiff's Miranda rights and talked to a probation officer. At only 13 years old, unrepresented by counsel, and with her adoptive parents and guardians having interests adverse to her own. With her adoptive parents and guardians having interests adverse to her own, plaintiff Cadle signed the form and then stated in part, I, plaintiff, fully understand my rights. I fully agree to talk about my situation with my JPO, juvenile probational officer. On May 22nd, 2017, plaintiff was required to appear in court and formally arraigned. Plaintiff's adoptive parents, defendant Cadle, her sexual abuser, and Lisa Cadle, both of whom had interests adverse to those of plaintiff Cadle, never sought counsel or legal advice on plaintiff's behalf. In fact, Lisa Cadle advised plaintiff to plead guilty to just get the case over with. And I'm thinking Lisa Cadle knows what was going on. I think she's fully aware of what her husband is doing. And I think she just doesn't care. That's just what I think. I don't know that anyone is proving this. It's just what I think. So, in the absence of legal counsel, Lisa Cadle advised plaintiff to sign a document freely and voluntarily, waiving her right to counsel and representing herself, whereupon on May 27, 2017, plaintiff pled guilty to giving false information to a law enforcement officer. On June 27, 2017, the 13-year-old plaintiff was placed on probation and continued residing with defendant Cadle and Lisa Cadle. So they basically told this little girl, we don't believe you. You the criminal. We're going to put you on probation and go back and stay with the people that's abusing you. That's what they did to her. That's why they're getting sued. 52 plaintiffs' conditions of probation included a curfew, that she perform community service, engage in anger management counseling, and write a letter of apology to her defendant, Cadle, who had repeatedly sexually abused her for years, and the PCSO, who had relentlessly pressured plaintiff to recant her truthful allegations against defendant Cadle from the start of their investigation. Once again, I'm re-showing the letter. This is to the dad, the uncle, Sorry for what I did. I didn't stop and think of my consequences of these actions. This will never happen again. And I'm sorry. From Taylor Cadle, June 29th, 2017. And the one she wrote to the officer, dear officer, I'm sorry for my actions. I know what I did wasn't right. Therefore, I face my consequences. This will never happen again. Taylor Cadle, June 29th, 2017. Yeah. So defendant Detective Turnage's lack of training and tainted investigation left plaintiff at the behest of her guardian and adoptive father, defendant Cadle, enabling defendant Cadle to thereafter subject plaintiff to further horrific sexual abuse after plaintiff was returned to the home of her sexual abuser less than 1 month after being forced to apologize to her abuser. Defendant Cadle continued his pattern of horrific sexual abuse against plaintiff. So, no less than making her apologize, he continued the behavior. And on July 25th, 2017, defendant Cadle, Grape plaintiff in his truck. During the incident, the plaintiff surreptitiously, I hope I said that correct. But anyway, she took video footage and photographs of defendant Cadle during the Grape. She recorded him walking around the rear of his vehicle prior to the Grape and photographed defendant Cadle's finger in her private area. Defendant Cadle standing next to her with his privates exposed from the zipper of his shorts as she was lying on her back with her legs spread, and a picture of a box of condoms sitting on her lap. She also hid the condom box under the passenger seat of the truck. So everything they just told this girl, you're a liar. You need to write a letter. You need to apologize to that man. You lied on him, and you need to apologize to the officer for making us investigate this. And then these people are idiots. She turned around and then got it all on video. It didn't even take long. A couple of months after they forced this girl to do all of that, apologized, called her a liar. A couple of months after that, she's able to get this man on video. Red-handed, hand in the, like, what do you say? Caught hand in the cookie jar. There's no way you can lie about it. And I'm not saying that as a pun. That's the saying, hand in the cookie jar. I understand how that sounds because what his hand was, how he was caught and what he was recorded doing. I'm not even saying that to be funny. I'm just saying that no way he can deny it now. But the damage is already been done. This girl had to go through being assaulted another time just to finally get some fucking help. That same night, upon arriving home, the plaintiff called 911 to report the Grape. She showed the investigating officer the photograph she took of defendant Cadle during the incident and advised him of the location where defendant Cadle threw 2 used condoms and a paper towel that was in plaintiff's underwear out the window. Officers ultimately located the condoms and the paper towel on the road where plaintiff said the Grape happened. Defendant Cadle was ultimately arrested, and during a police interview on July 26, 2017, defendant Cadle admitted it was him in the photos that plaintiff had taken during the Grape. Defendant Cadle was charged with 2 counts of sexual battery by someone with familiar custodial authority upon a minor between 12 and 17 years of age for not only his Grape of plaintiff on July 25th, 2017, but also for the Grape and sexual abuse plaintiff reported the year prior. That resulted in her prosecution for making a false statement. So he admitted to that, yeah, you know, what y'all said she was lying about, yeah, I did do that. So I can understand that these detectives feel stupid, but just come out and admit you're wrong. Just admit you're wrong. On July 28th, 2017, the Polk County State's Attorney's Office filed a motion to withdraw plaintiff's guilty plea and vacate her probation. The motion stated that plaintiff had entered a plea of guilty without the assistance of counsel, and the false information had been determined to be true. That's weird because when she entered a plea of guilty without assistance of counsel, they knew that. So I don't know why they let that happen. That's crazy. Mm-mm-mm. Oh my God. Well, I'm pretty much done with reading this. I'm gonna play a couple of news things because what's interesting. This ain't like this ain't the only time that this ain't the only time they been sued. I'm also I'm gonna make sure I keep this article because I'll put for anybody that I don't know, in case somebody watching back that want to read it for themselves or whatnot. I'll make sure I include that article. Make sure that I put it in the um. I'll make sure I put it in the description box. Um. Oh, also I want to say this because let me find it. Okay. All right. Also, because I know sometimes people say, "Well, what ever happened when it comes to that lawsuit?" So I looked it up. Um, of course, this article just covers what happened, everything that we just read. But the lawsuit's still ongoing. With the motion to uh this article covers how they try to they try to dismiss it at first. Federal court rules Cato's lawsuit is timely, including what appears to be the first ruling on this legal question in this federal district. In seeking dismissal, the defendants argued that too much time had passed for the case to move forward. The court disagreed. The defendants relied on a provision of Florida law that, while appearing in the same statute as the minor tolling provision, capped certain claims at 7 years from the underlying events. Plaintiffs' counsel successfully argued in what appears to be a first for this federal district that this 7-year cap functions as a statute of repose and substantive extinguishment of rights rather than a true statute of limitations, period, and that federal courts do not adopt statutes of repose when borrowing state law for federal civil rights claims. The court acknowledged the question was a closed one, given how the two provisions are intertwined but ultimately agree. The ruling has significantly has my bad. The ruling has significant implications of civil rights plaintiffs across Florida, particularly survivors who were minors at the time of the misconduct. The court further held that because Taylor Cadle was a minor without a parent or guardian acting in her interest, the statute of limitations was paused until she turned 18. Her lawsuit filed in October 2025 was timely. So they tried to get it kicked out. They said, nah, it get to stay. And think about how effed up that is, right? Like, they tried to say, no, you should have been filed that. It's been more than 7 years. So they tried to victimize that little girl again. You should have been filed that. How? She was a minor. They basically tried to argue that if you are a minor and can't file something until, like, you got to wait till you 18, right? But 18 might be more than 7 years. So now, like, what do those detectives, or what are they trying to argue, that you shit out of luck if that's the case? Anywho, the case is still on. So with the motion to dismiss largely denied, the case now moves forward into the next phase of litigation, where both sides will develop evidence and further arguments. The court has also set deadlines for amendments and responses as the case progresses. A trial date is set for April of 2027, so next year. For Taylor Cadle, the ruling represents a significant step in a case that continues to draw attention to accountability, investigative practices, and the treatment of abuse survivors. I think Taylor doing some good work, because I think that's why Sheriff Judd and them doing them sting operations, locking them people up to make themselves look better. But I still think the sting operations are a good thing. I But they fucked up on that case. With what happened with that girl, what that detective did, is wrong. I was reading, I didn't see anything where, and it's not to give him an excuse, because it still happened under his watch. So he definitely has to take the scrutiny for that. What else did I want to show? I don't need. All right, I showed that. That has the letters.
We're told if you're a victim of a crime to go to the police and report it. But what happens when they don't believe you? From the Center for Investigative Reporting, Rachel DeLeon has the story of how far one child had to go to prove her innocence. And a word of caution, this story involves details of child sexual abuse.
In the fastest growing county in America, Polk County, Florida, its longest serving sheriff, Grady Judd, has a large media presence and delivers unapologetic, tough on crime messages, like this one about an armed man involved in a car chase.
And he chose to die in a gunfight. We accommodated him. He said he wanted to go to heaven. We made the arrangements for him.
Running this fall for his 6th term in office, he's a popular sheriff, once invited to the White House by then-President Donald Trump to discuss issues facing sheriffs, and later asked to join a federal council overseeing all programs related to missing and exploited children. He's made it his department's priority to go after child predators.
We'll go to the ends of the earth to arrest you if you victimize children.
Why punish me? What did I do for you to punish me?
But Taylor Cadle's extraordinary case raises questions about how, despite Sheriff Judd's tough-on-crime rhetoric, his department treated a child victim as a criminal.
Nothing that I did was I in the wrong. At all.
Taylor had a traumatic childhood. The state took her away from her birth mother when she was 7 due to violence and neglect at home. After a year and a half in foster care, she was adopted by her great-uncle, Henry Cadle, and his wife. But within months, she says he began sexually abusing her.
I kept it secret because going through foster care, it was already so much of a traumatic experience that I was scared to go back.
Over the next 3 years, she says Henry Cadle used long car rides to abuse her off this road. One day in 2016, Taylor disclosed the abuse to an adult member of her church, which launched an investigation by multiple agencies.
Okay, well, how old are you?
almost 13. I'll be 13 in October.
That week, Taylor was asked to recount what happened to her several times. In a recorded interview with a child welfare worker, she went into detail, hoping she'd be believed.
And pull around the side of the road and told me to get in the front seat.
But in a separate interview recorded by Sheriff's Detective Melissa Turnage, the tone turned confrontational.
If you're mad because you got your phone taken away, let's say that now and be done with it.
From the get-go, she was rude. Simple terms, rude. When she continuously asked me the same question over and over, I almost told her she should probably write down what I'm saying because I didn't feel like she was listening.
Turnage treated Taylor less like a victim and more like a suspect.
Do you want to go live back in foster care? Because more than likely, if he's arrested, they're not going to let you stay there. But if it's not the truth, you're fixing to hurt a lot of people.
Everything I told you earlier is not a lie.
Still, Turnage concluded that Taylor made it up. The detective wrote that she couldn't find Henry Cadle on gas station security footage buying condoms like Taylor said he had. And she couldn't pinpoint the location of the assault on that long stretch of road.
Every interview that we talked, she made me out to be a liar. And I told her time and time and time and time again that I am not the liar here.
There's no excuse for the manner in which this case was handled.
Jerry Seitz, a forensic expert who's worked with thousands of child abuse cases, listened to the interviews between Turnage and Taylor. She says Turnage's techniques were inappropriate, especially because very few children, less than 4%, fabricate stories of sexual abuse.
And I know people go back to the training of it. I don't even think it's a lack of training. I don't have any training at all. But if I was talking to a young child about something like this, anything I didn't have an answer to, I would seek help. And I would, try, hey man, I have a case. I don't really know about how to handle it. But because I genuinely care, I if I don't know something or know how to do something, this wasn't a fumble because of a lack of training. This was a fumble because that lady just didn't give a fuck. Like, let's just be honest about it. You can't train people to care. People just have to care. What need to be trained is I don't know who's watching this lady. It's like that detective just had free reign to just do whatever the hell she wanted to do.
But kids with traumatic histories are less likely to be believed.
Kids who have that history of adversity are the perfect victim because their offender knows they're not going to be as credible because they've had this difficult life.
There's no way with the details that I gave or the things that I said or certain locations that I could have fabricated that big of a story. There was no way.
Instead of Henry Cadle going to court, 13-year-old Taylor faced a judge for a charge of lying to police. She had no lawyer, only her adoptive mother, Henry Cadle's wife.
I walked into that courtroom, scared out of my mind. And my mom told me in the car to just plead guilty and get it over with.
She was sentenced to 1 year of probation with community service. She also had to write 2 apology letters, one to her abuser and the other to a sheriff's officer. Taylor's experience is like hundreds of sexual assault cases I found nationwide as part of a years-long investigation into police charging alleged victims with lying. Due to privacy laws, I could find only a handful involving children, one as young as 11. Throughout, there was a pattern of police missing crucial steps in investigations. But Taylor's case is unique because she vindicated herself.
My on-call phone rang, and it was the on-call supervisor for my unit.
Joel Dempsey was the detective assigned to the case when Taylor called the police to report she was sexually assaulted again.
There was a previous investigation that the victim was on probation for, and then I also learned that new evidence would prove that some of the victim's statements were true.
Using her cell phone, 13-year-old Taylor made sure she got bulletproof evidence this time.
She had taken some photographs with her phone. She also took pictures of an empty condom box, as well as the clock on the vehicle, and then a short video of what appears to be the suspect walking around the truck.
This is the exact phone that I used in the 2017 case. I pulled up the camera, and on this specific phone, if you just tap the screen anywhere, it just takes a picture. So in my head, I was like basically kind of like swiping, but in reality, I was taking pictures of everything that was happening.
Just like last time, she detailed the abuse to a child welfare worker, but with one big difference.
Everything that they didn't find evidence for last time, I kind of tried to make sure that it was there this time, just so that way my story would get believed.
The photos she took with her phone were graphic.
So it was very shocking to see that, very sad, but a fantastic thing that she was able to collect it.
In Henry Cadle's recorded statement to Dempsey, he was adamant he was innocent.
I got the impression that because of the previous investigation and the result of it, that he felt somewhat secure.
But I want to ask you plainly, did you touch her?
No, hell no.
Now's the time to tell me, so I can get out in front of it. We can try to handle, figure out what's going on.
No, nothing happened.
At 4:30 a.m., the detective confronted Henry Cadle with the evidence.
Hey, Henry. Hey. You wanted to see what I got here? The pictures? Sure. See this?
Okay. Right.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
Who?
It's me.
Henry Cadle was sentenced to 17 years in prison for sexual battery of a minor. Taylor's criminal charge was overturned.
I don't remember any other case where the victim had the forethought or the intelligence to collect their own evidence and to be so thorough. Just unbelievable amount of presence of mind that she showed.
I reached out to Detective Melissa Turnage and her boss, Grady Judd, multiple times to ask for an interview. Turnage never responded, and Judd's office declined an interview and didn't answer repeated requests for comment.
Where was a person for Taylor? Where was a person to stand up to say stop and stop it now?
Since 2002, Florida State Senator Lauren Book has been working on state bills aimed at protecting victims of child abuse. She sent a letter to the sheriff's office requesting they look into how the system failed Taylor the first time around.
It happened to Taylor, and Taylor is enough to fix the system.
Senator Book says charging Taylor and letting her be assaulted again was entirely preventable, and properly trained professionals should have intervened at multiple levels.
You need to have people who are properly trained and who are in it to do the right thing and really walk a survivor through this process.
So let's talk about being trauma-informed and what that approach means.
Jerry Seitz trains investigators and law enforcement officers on how to help children who come forward with allegations of sexual abuse. She believes this is what could prevent a detective from doing this to another child like Taylor.
Certainly forensic interviewing has just really made a huge difference in child abuse cases, having people who are highly trained and understand linguistics and child development and how to approach kids so that they can gather accurate information in a neutral, supportive way.
Now a mom of two, Taylor is healing by giving her children the kind of safety she never had. She says she never received an apology from authorities, but hopes they use the lessons from her case going forward.
I want for them to understand what they did and to clearly see where they messed up, to truly see what happened and fix it. Because no child should ever have to go through anything that I went through.
For the PBS NewsHour and the Center for Investigative Reporting, I'm Rachel DeLeon in Polk County, Florida.
Oh my God. But this isn't the only time. All right, I showed that video. I can remove, remove. All right. So I was looking up too. When the person went in the comment section and told me like, it was like, oh man, you need to look up the lawsuit.
I want the children to be.
They have going on. It was another lawsuit that was another lawsuit that popped up from 12 years ago. They were saying that Polk Sheriff Judd sued over kids in jail.
I want the children to be treated like children, not adults. They're not safe where they're at.
Polk County parents say they're suing the sheriff. Now at 6, why they say children are being abused at the county jail. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Wendy Ryan.
And I'm Brendan McLaughlin. A group of Polk County parents filed a federal lawsuit today claiming the sheriff's office is keeping children in dangerous conditions at the Polk County jail. Sheriff Grady Judd has responded to those charges. Our Don Grape joins us live now from the sheriff's office in Winter Haven with more on this. Good evening, Don.
Good evening, Brendan. The sheriff just finished talking to us a couple hours ago and basically said the state was charging the Polk County sheriff nearly $300 per day to house juvenile inmates. He says he can do it for about $120 a day, saving taxpayers $2 million a year. But parents of some of those kids now being housed in an adult jail say that's unfair to the kids, and today they sued.
We're scared for him every day. That's all we think about is he safe?
Lisa Job is one of 6 parents who filed a federal class action lawsuit against Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. Job claims her 15-year-old son is the victim of abuse at the hands of detention deputies at the Polk County Jail, where her son has been locked up since October.
Rather than look after these kids, the guards at the jail call the children names, let them get into fights, lock them up in small cages, and spray them with mace.
The sheriff's office says Job's son was adjudicated on drug and burglary charges. He's awaiting trial as an adult on new charges. Judd houses juvenile offenders here at the Central County Jail instead of a separate juvenile facility to save money. A new state law gives counties the right to do that. The children are kept in the same facility, but a different wing of the jail. The Southern Poverty Law Center held a mini demonstration after filing the lawsuit to claim the Polk sheriff is exposing children to, quote, dangerously violent conditions.
These children are largely left to fend for themselves with no meaningful adult supervision.
The lawsuit alleges the sheriff has exposed children as young as 8 years old to these dangerous conditions.
It's child abuse.
Child abuse, that's a crime.
It is, and yeah.
The sheriff says the kids in jail are there for a reason.
This is the place where the charges are so violent or the history is so great that they have to be detained.
What would you say to the juvenile delinquents or their parents who are saying, we don't like the way we're being treated in your jail?
Yeah, you know what I'd say. And I'm going to say it again. All you have to do is behave.
And Grady Judd said, bring it on. He's willing to go to trial on this. There's not going to be any settlement. He believes the children are being treated fairly. His jail deputies have been trained better than juvenile detention deputies have been trained, and the kids are getting a fair shake. Live in Winter Haven, Don.
And so Grady Judd said he don't get no damn. He said don't break no law and you'll be fine. You won't even be up here. So that's how he feels about it. And I think I don't. Ooh, My bad. I glitched out for a minute. When it comes to this case, from what I can tell, because he did do a um a press conference about it, and I don't think they got any money or anything like that.
Happening this morning, our crews are set up and ready to go outside the Hillsborough County Courthouse, where a federal lawsuit is being brought against Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd by a national civil rights group. Our Rob Munoz is live in downtown Tampa, and Rob, this case is expected to start in just a few hours.
And in previous interviews, Sheriff Grady Judd has said that the claims being brought here later this morning are outrageous. But the Southern Poverty Law Center is saying that these are some very serious charges. Now, the SPLC is claiming that Grady Judd, ever since he started placing juvenile inmates in adult prisons, they've been hearing of cases where juveniles, some as young as 8 years old, are being cursed at, mistreated, and at least in one case, they allege that a juvenile was placed in a cage. Now, Judd has put juveniles into Polk County prisons ever since a recent Florida law has allowed him to do so. But he's been facing a lot of opposition and protests ever since. Now, he's been saying the juveniles are housed in a different wing of the prison and are under proper supervision. Now, we might see some of the protesters out here outside the courthouse later on this morning. And we're also watching to see if Sheriff Grady Judd himself will be here when court starts at 9 o'clock this morning. In downtown Tampa, I'm Rob Munoz, ABC Action News.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Judd don't like he give a damn. Some of the stuff I'll be honest with this one. Some of the stuff that they were saying, it goes on in juvenile, the kids fighting and things of that nature.
Good evening. I'm Brendan McLaughlin.
I think my internet trying to say, why you been on here too long? It's trying to glitch. I don't know if y'all noticed it happened on my side. Come on, don't do that.
Good evening. I'm Brendan McLaughlin.
And I'm Linda Hurtado. New tonight, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd named in a federal lawsuit claiming he used the suicide of a 12-year-old girl as a publicity stunt. The family of one of the teens accused of bullying the 12-year-old filed a lawsuit last night. Ryan Raish is live in Lakeland tonight to explain the next chapter in this case. Hi, Ryan.
Hey guys, this is the exact spot where 12-year-old Rebecca Sedgwick jumped to her death from the silo right up there. And if you walk over here, you can still see some items to remember her some 2 years after the fact. Now it appears this case is heading back to the courtroom over claims that the sheriff took advantage of this tragic event.
We just have to wait to see how it plays out.
The case that put bullying in the national spotlight is now back in the headlines for a very different reason. Sheriff Grady Judd named in a federal lawsuit, claiming he used the tragic suicide of 12-year-old Rebecca Sedgwick as a publicity stunt.
Probably terrified all of them, to be put in that kind of situation because kids don't understand things like that.
Back in September 2013, Polk County deputies arrested 2 teen girls for aggravated stalking, accusing them of relentlessly bullying their classmate Rebecca. Investigators say that was a big part of the reason why she jumped to her death. The charges were later dropped, but, quote, the incident left the 12-year-old suspect devastated and irreparably damaged. The suit claims Judd's appearance on national TV made the 12-year-old the poster child of cyberbullying.
We are making an example out of those girls, and we're going to make an example out of anyone else that does the same thing.
I think that there is a colorable claim at this point.
ABC Action News legal expert Jeff Schwartz says there's only one way the lawsuit will stick. The family's attorney will have to prove Judd and his detective twisted the facts to convince the judge there was enough evidence to charge the teens.
And here, whether the state abandons the charges because it cannot believe it can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt does not affect a probable cause finding.
The 25-page lawsuit describes it as a witch hunt, but tonight the sheriff is the one being hunted. The family in this case is seeking $15,000 in damages. The sheriff will not comment on pending litigation. However, a spokesperson tells me that the claims have no merit. We're live in Lakeland tonight. Ryan Raish, ABC Action News.
Man. So as you can see, Sheriff Judd, he be under fire. He yeah. Uh-oh. Request, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. Request look like Request is giving me something else I gotta look up later on. Request said, ha ha ha. Nobody can take SPLC seriously any longer. They accepted bribes to create racist crimes. Man. Really? I gotta look that. Oh man, that's something else I'm gonna have to look into. Yeah, that's something else. Let me see. I ain't gonna do it now. I'm gonna have to so you talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay. I'm gonna have to let me see. I'm gonna take that and save that, and I'm gonna look more into that. As a matter of fact, man, it's crazy. All right, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna get it together, and I'm gonna do another live and another video. That's how I ended up doing this live today. I was doing the fool around and find out, and the poke around and find out big sting operations that Sheriff Judd and his county was doing. And somebody went in my comments and said, "Hey bro, I know you proud of what they're accomplishing in Polk County because they caught a bunch of guys that was because I don't really care if somebody is going to have sex with adults, like adult to adult. I don't care. Unless it's damn, I need to put some oil on this chair. It's squeaking. Unless it's like some trafficking situation. I mean just like, some let me just be blunt. I don't, if a guy meets a woman, that woman wants to have sex with that guy, and if they pay for their time, I'm not some guy. I'm not. I don't want to hunt those people down. I wouldn't waste my time on that. But what I thought was good about the sting operations is they caught people that were trying to go sleep with minors, and people that were a couple of people took their children with them to go visit prostitutes. And so I thought it was good that people like that were caught. I thought I thought the sting operation was a success. And I just thought it was impressive because they did this exact same sting operation in the same place around the same time. One happened in 2025 in May. The next one happened in 2026 in May. And I just thought it was impressive that they still were able, had over 200 arrests in both sting operations, right? But somebody said, well, hey, you need to look into Sheriff Grady Judd and his department being sued. So, yeah. Let's see. You said basically, Request said basically, oh my good. You said how to pronounce it is Recases. Okay. Recases said just search SPLC charges, and then you also said basically white racism is so non-existent they have to fabricate situations to make it look like racism. I'm aware that those things do happen. They do. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. And I don't like when people do it because when something actually happens, it takes away from the stories that actually happen. And then you said also, by the way, brought to you by the Democrats. Okay, let me see. Boom. All right. Let me take a picture of the information. So I'm gonna look it up and get a I'm gonna look it up and put a live together. Wow. It's pretty cool, man, how that happens, man. Cause like you do one live 1 week and then somebody will say something to you that connects to that, and then you'll so then like this week now I'm doing this. And so then the next live I do, I'll be talking about them. You said like Smooth. You said about Juicy Smoothie. What Dave Chappelle called him Juicy Smoothie? Nobody ever believed that guy. That dude, man. Who's going to get a sandwich in that cold ass weather? Nobody, as Keith Sweat would say. All right. So this next video, I'm not gonna play all of this video. I don't think I will. Maybe if it gets interesting. This is Sheriff
For
Grady
one of our
Judd.
detention.
Damn, I just glitched again. I'm gonna end up not playing this whole video, but this is Sheriff Grady Judd discussing SPLC lawsuit ruling. Oh yeah, man, yeah, it's juicy schmoozy. All right. There we go.
Over the duration. I'm here to spend a few minutes with you to explain or give you an overview of a 182-page federal ruling we received today from where the Southern Poverty Law Center sued us, FPLC. They sued us about 3 years ago. And it's going to take me a few minutes to go through this, but it's important. There's been a lot of media attention over the duration of this suit from the very beginning. When they first filed the suit, they filed some absolutely horrific allegations, which were baseless. They were fiction. They were just absolutely not true. And from there, we ended up in a 3-year knockdown, drag out legal battle, a legal battle that should have never, ever begun. First off, I want to thank Judge Meraday from the federal court. Judge Meraday paid close attention to this case, both from SPLC side, the plaintiff side, and from our side, and we were the defendants in the lawsuit. Not only did Judge Meraday pay specific attention, he actually came to the Central County Jail and viewed the housing that we had for the juveniles personally, which we appreciate. Quite frankly, the courts paid close attention to all of the evidence, and thus the 182-page ruling. And let me give you some history for those of you who weren't here then. We took the juveniles, the pre-adjudicated juveniles, from state custody pursuant to a new ruling, a new law that was created by the Florida legislature that said the sheriffs could house pre-adjudicated juveniles. So the question is, well, why did we do that? Well, quite frankly, we did it for two reasons. One, because we thought it was in the best interest of the juveniles who were being detained, and two, in order to save the local taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. And here's what caused the law to be changed so that we could house them, and here's why we did it. We were being charged $296 a day a child. The county was being billed that from Department of Juvenile Justice for every day a pre-adjudicated juvenile delinquent was in their custody. $296 a day a bed. We knew then that that was ridiculous. That was ridiculously expensive. And we didn't believe it was fair. And in fact, there has since been court rulings, administrative court rulings, that said that DJJ, in fact, overcharged.
My bad. I think it glitched, but just in case it did, I'll rewind it a little bit.
Fair. And in fact, there has since been other court rulings, administrative court rulings, that said that DJJ, in fact, overcharged us and overcharged other agencies. It is my understanding currently that they're charging $326 a day a bed back to different counties for the pre-adjudicated juveniles that are in their custody. So our initial focus was we can take better care of the juvenile delinquents, and we can give them a safer environment, and we'll save the local taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. The money that we saved in the last 3 years, and we're projecting that through the end of September based upon, and the history we have, we will save the local taxpayers between $4.8 and $5.7 million. That's how much we would have to be paying to the state. Now,
And so Sheriff Judd is saying that he saved these people money. These people trying to attack him, saying he's wrong, but he's saying the law allowed me to do it, and I'm saving money.
$0.8 and $5.7 million. That's how much we would have to be paying to the state. Now, Southern Poverty Law Center decided that they would make us pay a horrible price for this, and that they would rain down on us with legions of lawyers and investigators and point out what they thought were shortcomings. Well, let me first tell you that it's important to understand why we have professional accreditations. As you know, professional accreditations set out best practices, and we followed those. And ultimately, with the court's ruling today in our favor, the best practices that we followed carried the day because they ruled in our favor. And I must tell you, it took a lot of work. But now, let me go over for just a second this chart to the left. Here's the accreditations we brought to the table. And here are the professional developments for our staff. What's important, if you look, the day we took over these pre-adjudicated youth, we gave them accreditation standards in all of these categories. The Department of Juvenile Justice had none of these accreditations, none of these best practices in place, and I don't know that they have them today. In addition, we have this professional development. And if you look over this, and I hope that you do because this is very important, where we require a total of 832 hours before one of our detention deputies can personally supervise a juvenile, the state of Florida only requires 240 hours, 71% less training than we have to watch a juvenile. And our requirements is that all the training be completed before we can have any contact with the juvenile delinquent in our custody, and that's not so for the state of Florida. So when you look to see that the day that those juveniles came into our custody, they were in a better facility. They were in a cleaner facility. They were in a larger facility. They were in the best environment possible. And you see that the day they moved into our facility, there was on-site 24/7 medical help at our facility when there wasn't at DJJ. It would cause one to pause and say, gosh, why in the world do we want to sue an entity that has 4 times the training, 3 times the training, all the professional accreditations, 24/7 medical? It's a philosophy of the Southern Poverty Law Center. They didn't want the Florida sheriffs to detain pre-adjudicated juveniles, and they made that abundant. They told us before we ever had the first person, the first juvenile delinquent, pre-adjudicated juvenile delinquent in our custody, if you start this program, we're going to sue you. Now, obviously, there's absolutely no basis for that other than a threat. A threat. So what they were threatening is to sue us if you put these children in a better environment and save your local taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. And they did. What's interesting about that is that
I don't know if it's just because of the way he sounds and the way he talks. I kind of believe Sheriff Judd when it comes to this one. Now, I feel like the other, and I'm gonna do a review of what we were talking about earlier. This just popped up because somebody had me to look up Polk County being sued. This is from like 12 years ago. When this whole thing when it started. What up, Brumaire? How you doing? Ah.
when this all started, SPLC filed this notice to sue and lawsuit before they ever looked at our facility, before they ever met with the first person in our facility, before they ever looked at our program, despite the fact us willing to talk with them and communicate with them. They filed a big, ugly, nasty lawsuit full of fiction and totally wasted the wonderful people who donate to SPLC.
What's up, Rose?
Totally wasted their
How
money.
you doing?
Interestingly enough, after they refused to talk to us and the sue started, we had a 3-year battle. It was ugly, it was hateful, it was spiteful. When SPLC knew the facts were to the contrary, when the evidence and the discovery showed them evidence to the contrary of their allegations, they just dug deeper and dug deeper and dug deeper. Ultimately, at some point in the negotiations off the legal record, SPLC said they misjudged us. They thought when they came in with all of this power, we would just fold up and do what they asked.
Let's see. Renee Spears says he's a good officer. He is good people. Oh, after this, I'm still watching. I'm still watching Sheriff Grady Judge content. I'm not going to start watching this guy. I disagree what happened with the young lady. I feel like that department, the detectives on her case, definitely fumbled the ball when it came to her case. It was just wrong with what happened to her. The person who told me to look it up, the way they described it made it seem like it was just on Sheriff Judd. I think it was up under him, so he does have to take accountability for that. But ultimately, it was just that the detective on the case with the young lady, she reported her uncle saying that he was touching on her, sexually assaulting her. The detective on that case didn't believe the girl, chose to charge her and present and chose to present it as, hey, she lied to a law enforcement officer. That girl was coerced into pleading guilty and being put on probation because of that. They sent her back to live with that uncle that was abusing her. And he abused her again, but this time the young lady actually recorded it, then called the police. And so that uncle is now locked up doing 17 years. But right now, um, Sheriff Grady Judd is being sued again with the officers, with with two other officers. But the one that had the case that really fumbled the actual investigation is the detective, and it was a woman at that. It wasn't even a guy detective, it was a woman detective at that. Shout out Natalie Peters. Say, yeah, that's Sheriff Grady Judd. Roscoe said Grady is my homie. And then shout out to Renee Spears says, I love him and you're right. Yep. So yeah, I'm gonna still watch him. I still like the work that they're doing down there. I just do. I like the way he reports his crime stories. I like how he makes fun of his criminals. It's refreshing. I think he found a clever way to get people interested in crime in these conferences. He gets people to look and pay attention.
I can tell you, we can't stop people from filing hateful, malicious, fictitious lawsuits. We can only defend ourselves. And that's what we did. Our defense team was led by Major Michael Allen and Major Kim Markham. They are ultimate professionals. They are experts in detention housing. And as a result, they pulled together all of our evidence and all of our witnesses. While SPLC wasted all their donors' money, imagine if they would have taken that money that they spent on this frivolous lawsuit and reinvested it for the best interest of children in our community or any other community in this nation, what good it could have been. And instead, they just wanted to dig in on this malicious lawsuit because philosophically, they disagreed with the sheriff housing pre-adjudicated juveniles. Southern Poverty Law Center should be ashamed of themselves for causing the taxpayers of Polk County to have to defend ourselves when we were doing what was in the best interest of the juvenile. When we were taking that juvenile delinquent out of a lesser environment and providing a much better and much safer environment. And certainly there are sheriffs around the state of Florida that have told me along the way, we're waiting to see the outcome of the lawsuit. Well, sheriffs, you see the outcome of the lawsuit. We won because we were doing what's right. We always do what's right. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, doing what's right's not always easy. Doing what's right's not always popular with everyone. But if you do what's right, right comes out every time. I have then and I have now huge faith in our justice system. I can tell you that the courts listened to all the evidence and as a result made the ruling that we knew before any of this began. And I would encourage other sheriffs around the state of Florida, do your local taxpayer a favor. Save them a lot of money. And at the same time, you can create a lot better environment for the juvenile delinquents that have to be held pre adjudication. But let me read this to you. Let me read some of the quotes from this 182 pages. Now, this is just a few, because for you to get the full flavor of the power of this ruling, I could stand up here and read 182 pages to you. You may find this 3 or 4 pages I'm going to read to you compelling. Certainly you should. And I could take the same verbiage, and if you read the whole thing, you'll see the whole 182 pages are like this. When it says the plaintiffs, they're talking about Southern Poverty Law Center.
180 pages. You know these job descriptions come with a lot of reading. You got to be a reader to be in anything in law enforcement. Damn.
Center's view of the law is generally wrong, and the defendants, the sheriff's office, view is generally right. That's on page 5. To encapsulate the conclusion of this order, the circumstances at the Central County Jail are comfortably and distinctly outside the circumstances that implicate the 14th Amendment. Again, in general, this order finds facts consistent with the sheriff's office proposed findings and inconsistent with Southern Poverty Law Center's proposed findings.
Let's see. Oh, David. Yeah, you said David said so the cops want to be YouTube influencers now. He said, oh, it's Florida. You know, I get what you're saying and stuff. I think it's a good thing because I think it brings awareness, to be honest with you. You know, I think that's what makes YouTube so cool, right? Like when I was growing up and it wasn't like all these content creators, right? You only got the news that came on your TV. And now you can actually find the news that's important to you, that you want to pay attention to, and just subscribe to that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing.
The insufficiency of the plaintiff's presentation, although lengthy and tenacious and inclusive of every arguable episode, great and small, becomes manifest and dispositive in the conditions of the juvenile detention at Central, in that the conditions of juvenile detention at Central County Jail are not consistent with Southern Poverty Law Center's dark, grim, and condemning portrayal. In the instant case, the evidence shows that the sheriff has engaged in a prudent, steady course of management. The plaintiffs have again plucked a phrase from the case about the 8th Amendment's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment and mischievously planted the phrase out of context and disguised as a Supreme Court precedent. The plaintiff.
Right. Renee Spears, transparency. Yep. Right. Transparency. That's what I like most about it is transparency. And I don't think what Sheriff Judd and like Polk County does, I don't think it's necessarily like content creator like that. It's just because you have YouTube. This is just like news is what he's doing. This is a press conference, you know. You just get this like the news station would chop this up into clips, right? And just give you the part they want you to hear on their channel or on their station, right? Or on your TV. And the benefit of YouTube is you can come to Polk counties or whatever county you want to, and you can see the whole speech in the proper context of, you know, and you can hear it for yourself. That's the only, and I think that's the difference that makes is a big deal to me. I like it. Yeah. Recasa says, yep, fake news, mainstream media is propaganda. propaganda. Yeah. I don't look at no news on the damn TV. I get on YouTube and do my own stuff. Like half of the time, like when I do these lives, I don't be knowing everything. I just look at the videos and read the articles in front of everybody and just learn about it. I don't just look at what's on my TV. And half the time, your TV ain't gonna show you the important crimes. If you want, like, for instance, crimes against children, those do not get popularized, like, at all. You are not gonna see, like, the crimes that happen to these children. You're not gonna just see them on your TV like that. They just, for some reason, I guess it don't bring enough attention to them, to their stations. So let's see. Sheba Army Brat says that sheriff helped the grapist. That's what I was talking about earlier in the video. I went over that case. And I read through excuse me. My bad. I read through that case. And that detective that was on that case is a horrible person. David says, what is wrong with Florida? Renee said, telling what's up. David says, I thought it was bad in Portland. Sheba Army says he made a victim live and write her grapist an apology letter. Yep, we went over the apology letter. When I went over it, I'm gonna go back and show it. I think he takes accountability for it because it happens under his leadership. But I really, really blame that damn detective that was on that did the investigating. After midnight with Mecca says thank you for the info on the county. You welcome. Anytime. Shout out Renee Spears says that's why I like you. Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. Shout out Tech FPV says the most effective sheriff in the country, US. Man, a lot of people like Sheriff Grady Judd. I like him. I went over that case. I don't think he was as hands-on with that case. I really blame the detective, but I do think because of his leadership, because he running the show, I think he takes accountability for that. But I'm not going to say that he supported a rapist. I think that detective was just an evil woman. All right, let me I looked at enough of that, but let me make sure I save that because I'm gonna have to use that video again when I look up SPLC. But anyway, they lost that lawsuit. So where is my other video? Boom. I need that. All right. I'm gonna have to look it up again. All right.
Developing tonight, a woman from Polk County is hoping her.
All right, quick. Let me do a quick review. what we talked about tonight.
Well, developing tonight, a woman from Polk County is hoping her story and a new lawsuit prevent what she endured as a child from ever happening again.
Yeah, she was 12 years old when she told Polk County detectives that she had been raped by her adoptive father. As 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Chris Hurst explains what happened next, added to her trauma.
I have a hard time to this day trusting anybody.
Taylor Cadle says her trust was first broken by her great uncle and adoptive father. She says raped her countless times for years, beginning when she was just 9 years old.
I was just hoping that it would end.
In 2016, when Cadle was 12, she told a pastor's wife, then a detective for the Polk County Sheriff's Office. But the detective didn't believe her.
Not even just her, but everyone around me wasn't listening and nobody was hearing me.
Cadle was charged with filing a false report and forced to write apologies to detectives and Henry Cadle, who didn't stop abusing his adoptive daughter. Taking matters into her own hands, she took photos of him raping her again.
I contemplated.
And see, that's the part I'm talking about. See, I get it, Judd, leadership, but it was the detective that decided. The detective was talking to, and I might just pull it up again. Hold on, let me let this play.
Making that call and was trying to talk myself out of it for a good minute before I ended up, calling 911 that night.
He was finally charged and convicted of sex crimes with a 17-year sentence. Cadle's lawsuit against Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd and 2 detectives accuses them of violating her rights by punishing her instead of believing her. Tonight, Judd's office released this statement saying lawyers will file frivolous lawsuits for just about anything, including second-guessing 9-year-old criminal investigations, and then run to the news media attempting to get publicity for their lawsuit, adding they investigated best they could with what they knew at the time.
Institutions that were created to protect the public safety should ensure that children are treated with the dignity that they deserve.
Cadle says she is willing to relive her trauma.
I feel like I have to be the voice for some people who don't have a voice.
To make sure another child doesn't experience her horror. Chris Hurst, 10 Tampa Bay News.
Cadle's lawsuit claims Judd and the 2 detectives involved violated her constitutional rights and doesn't have a claim for monetary damages. Judd and other defendants haven't responded in court to the claims. We put the sheriff's office's full statement in this report on 10 Tampa Bay.
And I hope she wins that case. I really do. I think that it was a violation. But I think this was mainly, where did I put it? Let me pull it up. Because we read over that transcript, and it was horrible to read. The things, oh my God. Where is it at? The things that was in that report. Let me see. The things that was in that report. Insane. What's up? Good morning. Good morning, Elevator. How you doing? What up, Mitch? What's up? How you doing? All right. Okay. All right. So all this, the plaintiff was talking to the detective. All right. So plaintiff kept abuse a secret for years. So this is in the report, and Let me see. Where is it at? I'm trying to find the part because Taylor, as the little girl, she was like 12, 13 years old, sat down and was talking to when it defendant Turnage. She was talking to the detective, and the detective listened to this young girl describe the things that happened to her. Now you see this paragraph on your screen right here. It says on July 30th, 2016, defendant Turnage, that's the detective, conducted a screening wherein the plaintiff, at this time a 12-year-old child, advised that defendant Cadle, that's the uncle, touched her in places she should not be touched and touched her private parts with his private parts. Plaintiff told defendant Detective Turnage that defendant Cadle put a condom on his privates when he touched her private. The plaintiff, too ashamed to state what the defendant Cadle would say to her when he raped her, wrote on a piece of paper for defendant Detective Turnage that defendant Cadle, he would tell her to. I'm not going to read that. I think y'all can see it yourselves, but I'm not going to read it. The plaintiff also gave defendant Detective Turnage a statement consistent with the statement she made to the initial deputy to arrive on scene, describing how the grapes happened on the side of the road. Now, after sitting down with this young lady and hearing these horrible stories, right? Yeah, Mitch, absolutely disgusting and sad. Like, it's some of it I feel like guilty even reading it. Like, I was like, when I read this, I was like, I feel like I would be arrested for just reading this, right? So here goes the detective. Now, this paragraph here is about the detective. Now, after the detective spoke with that little girl and heard everything she heard, this paragraph right here, 28, says, defendant Turnage, the detective, subsequently interviewed defendant Cadle, that's the uncle accused of Grape. Despite the evidence provided to her by plaintiff, that's the little girl, Detective Turnage stated, this is her talking to the uncle. This is what she said. This was quoting her. Basically, Taylor, the plaintiff, I guess, has made up these allegations, okay, that you have been sexually abusing her. After hearing everything that little girl said, that's what she goes to the uncle and say. Thus, the assigned law enforcement officer to investigate a contemporaneous report of child sexual abuse made clear that she already did not believe plaintiff upon the initiation of her investigation, a position that colored every subsequent dereliction of her duties throughout her work on the case for reasons that can only be explained by the PCSO's failures to appropriately train, supervise, and discipline officers. And that's where I think Sheriff Judd comes in and his department. Failures to appropriately train, supervise, and discipline officers. Also, I didn't see in this case where you had any checks and balances that would stop an evil detective like this from being able to do what the hell she did to this little girl. And so I do hold him accountable for that. All right. Now, here's how the uncle responded to that. I'm not gonna go over everything because I already went over it before, so much of it people might have to catch on the replay. But trying to see. Also, if y'all could do me a favor, if y'all in here, if y'all could thumbs up the video, help me out in the algorithm. If y'all could thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up, thumb up. Trying to see. All right. So after so this is how the uncle responded. When defendant Detective Turnage asked defendant Cadle if he would be willing to take a polygraph test, defendant Cadle said no, specifically responding. This is this man's response to that. I've had sex with a lot of people in the shower with my eyes closed. If you know what I mean. I'm a man. This is how he responded to a detective asking him, would you like to take a lie detector test determining if you did something with your niece? And this is how he responded. Defendant Detective Turnage did not question or investigate that defendant Cadle. What it says, defendant Detective Turnage did not question or investigate what defendant Cadle meant by this suggestive and strange commentary. Never said nothing about it. Never said nothing about it. Never asked him, like, what does that mean? That's what I would have wondered. I would have wondered, what does that mean? I'm asking you about doing something illegal and you talking about having sex in the shower with your eyes closed. Okay. Which is crazy. So, this is getting to the part about her having to write letters. So, on May 22nd, 2017, plaintiff was required to appear in court and formally arraigned. Plaintiff's adoptive parents, defendant Cadle, her sexual abuser, and Lisa Cadle, both of whom had interests adverse to those of plaintiff Cadle, never sought counsel or legal advice on plaintiff's behalf. In fact, Lisa Cadle advised plaintiff to plead guilty to just get the case over with. I still think that the aunt knew what was going on. Can't prove it, so allegedly. Now, in the absence of legal counsel, Lisa Cadle advised plaintiff to sign a document freely and voluntarily waiving her right to counsel and representing herself, whereupon on May 27, 2017, plaintiff pled guilty to giving false information to a law enforcement officer. On June 27, 2017, the plaintiff, age 13 at the time, plaintiff was placed on probation and continued residing with defendant Cadle and Lisa Cadle. Plaintiff's conditions of probation included a curfew, that she perform community service, engage in anger management counseling, and write letter of apology to her defendant Cadle, who had repeatedly sexually abused her for years, and the PCSO, who had relentlessly pressured plaintiff to recant her truthful allegations against defendant Cadle from start to their investigation. So I don't know if that's necessarily in particular Sheriff Judd came, because the way people were telling me was like Sheriff Judd came in and said, you better write this letter. No, it's just a condition of her probation because she pled guilty to lying. So it's, hey, they might require, hey, as probation, you also need to write a letter apologizing for lying. But it's horrible. But I don't, but people are like, somebody was trying to say, well, you probably shouldn't listen to Sheriff Judd no more because he made a little girl do this. And now I'm reading it and it's not how people quite, they kind of took it out of context. Let's say Mitch says need to be fired. Yeah, that detective need to be locked away. They do. I do think yeah, I think the whole department, I think they dropped the ball on this. I don't know. It's like nobody was watching that detective. They was just allowed to do anything. And these are the letters she had to write. Dear Dad, I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't stop and think of my consequences of these actions. This will not happen again, and I'm sorry. Taylor Cadle, June 29th, 2017. This is the second letter. Dear officer, I'm sorry for my actions. I know what I did wasn't right. Therefore, I face my consequences. This will never happen again. Taylor Cadle, June 29th, 2017. You look at the handwriting, it's like, this little girl having to write these letters, which is horrible, especially when you know you're not lying, you know? And after this, after a couple of months, he went back to abusing her. She was able to record him, take pictures. He was arrested, sentenced to 17 years in prison. And I don't know. This is just a horrible case. Horrible, I would say, just horrible detective. This lady, um, I know that people, the higher ups, they don't want to necessarily question their officers or think that they would lie or not take serious these cases. But I hope going forward that they understand that you have to do that because you have detectives that, like this lady, she definitely needs more training, but I don't think you can train people to have a heart and train people to care. I don't care how I that detective might not be well trained, but if she actually cared, I still don't think all of this happens the way that it happened. And now what she did is terrible. This is why people don't trust law enforcement. They don't fuck with the police because of bad um people like that are on the force that make, they leave a stain on the whole department. Let's see. What was I gonna say? So, all right. Oh, let me go to my notes. Also I wanted to do the cultural analysis. 4 questions I had. Why do institutions distrust child victims? I played a video earlier where the lady was speaking. She said children who come from certain backgrounds, like that come from like bad, troubled backgrounds, got in trouble a lot. People tend not to trust them. Um, my second question, how does power protect predators? Number 3, why are girls punished for reporting abuse? Number 4, what does this say about policing culture in Florida? Um, so I would say number 1, let's see. And my bad, I'm going through my notes real quick. I kind of veered off and freestyled it. But I'm back to my notes. So this is key points in the Polk County lawsuit. So number 1, a child reported being raped and deputies didn't believe her. The victim, Taylor Cadle, told Polk County deputies that her uncle had been raping her for years. Instead of treating her like a victim, the detective dismissed her story. This means that this is the first major failure. Law enforcement is supposed to protect minors, especially in sexual abuse cases. Not believing her set the stage for everything that went wrong. Number two, the sheriff's office charged her with lying. Instead of investigating, the uncle deputies accused the 13-year-old of making a false report. This is extremely rare and legally dangerous. So, sheriff's office charged her with lying. Instead of investigating the uncle, deputies accused the 13-year-old of making a false report. This is extremely rare and legally dangerous. Charging a child victim with lying discourages all victims from coming forward. It also shows the sheriff's office prioritized protecting their own assumptions over protecting a child. Number three, she was pressured into pleading guilty. Taylor was told she could face harsher punishment if she didn't plead guilty. She was a child, scared, and without power. Um, um, s- in the paperwork that we went over, the detective was telling her, like, hey, you could end up going back to foster care. She also told her, like, if you get, because it's her great uncle, but he adopted her. So like she says, like, that's her dad. So the detective was saying, yeah, if you send your dad away, who your mother gonna have, how you gonna get back and forth to school, you gonna make the whole family suffer. Like, she was like coercing her. So this is a textbook example of coercion. Children often accept plea deals because they don't understand the system or fear worse consequences. Number four, she was forced to write apology letters. She had to write letters apologizing to the sheriff's office, her grapist. Meaning, this is one of the most disturbing parts. It shows a complete reversal of justice. The victim was treated like the offender, and the offender was treated like the victim. Number five, the uncle raped her again, and she recorded it. Less than a month after being punished, the uncle assaulted her again. This time, she secretly recorded the attack. This proves she was telling the truth from the beginning. It also shows the sheriff's office left her in danger by refusing to act. Number six, only after the recording did deputies arrest the uncle. So once the recording surfaced, the sheriff's office finally arrested him. He was later sentenced to 17 years in prison. The system only acted when the evidence was undeniable. This is a failure of investigative responsibility. Number seven, the lawsuit claims the sheriff's office violated her rights. So the lawsuit argues the Polk County failed to investigate properly, wrongfully charged the child, ignored signs of abuse, allowed continued harm, caused emotional and psychological trauma. So this is not just a mistake, it's a pattern of negligence that directly led to more abuse. And number eight, the lawsuit targets Sheriff Grady Judd and two deputies. So they are accused of mishandling the investigation, failing to protect a minor, acting with reckless disregard for her safety. So this puts responsibility at the leadership level, not just the detective. And that was my whole point. So when people say, like, oh, you can't watch Sheriff Grady Judd no more because he made the girl. No, he is accountable. He has to be accountable for this, but at the leadership level. But those other nasty things that happened, that was this crooked ass detective lady. What's her name? Um, Melissa Turnage is her name. Yeah. Let's see. Mitch Main says if there is a fucking 1% chance it's true, you follow every lead and literally triple check if there's even the slightest possibility. Exactly. But that's what I'm saying, Mitch. You have to care in order to do that. And I think that detective lady, she just didn't care. And I think Sheriff Judd, he's to blame when that detective is allowed to operate that way and you don't have a system in place to check that bad behavior. Yeah. Let's see. Mitch says their statement after the fact was horrendous. Did they once apologize or take any accountability? Shows the absolute disregard of the whole department. I don't think they would issue an apology, especially not with a lawsuit still going on. I don't think they're gonna do that. I think they should. I think they should. But I don't. These people, they still care about money at the end of the day. Like, cut your losses. Let the young lady win a case. Just apologize, man. Just apologize and let her win. I hope she wins. It's very sad what happened to her. I, you know, I'm glad the person told me to look this up though, because I didn't know about this. It's horrible, 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 horrible. It kind of reminds me. They had this. Forgive me, I can't think of the names right now, but they had this young black girl, and she was a little black girl, and she passed away, starved to death, and I believe her mother had died. So she went to go live with her father and his wife. And the stepmom was abusing her. They had an investigation, and the stepmom was arrested and put in jail. Right? And the little girl was removed from the home at the time. Do you know that stepmom, she got out of prison and that little girl was placed back in that home? She's dead now. So that's kind of what this case had reminded me of, how dangerous it was. Also the fact that this girl was sent back to live with people that know she told on them. By the grace of God, she's still alive. She didn't lose her life. That guy could have, you see what I'm saying? Like, cause he was steaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, you told on me. You know what I'm saying? He's the abuser. He's the, what if, he would have, you know what I'm saying? Like, been angry enough. And probably the only reason that ain't happened is because he know he fresh out of slipping away from justice. So that's probably like the only reason he ain't do nothing, like try to take a life. Cause he probably figured like, oh, they still might be watching me. I narrowly escaped justice and we got her on probation. So it's like, I want, you know what I'm saying? But she's gotta go. That's like you know what I'm saying? It's like you think you telling on somebody you gonna get away and get free. And then it don't happen, and this person mad and angry, and they already abuse you. Ain't no telling what they do after that, man. But yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, Mitch. Yeah, man. Huge failure, man. All right. Well, I've been on here for 3 hours. Let me get my final statements. My final thoughts. This lawsuit isn't just about one girl. It's about a system that failed repeatedly and only acted when the victim produced undeniable evidence. Polk County is now being forced to answer for decisions that left a child in danger. And if this can happen to Taylor, it can happen to any child who dares to speak up. So, I think they definitely owe this young lady money. I appreciate the work that they are now doing with the sting operations. It's all cool, but yeah, I hope this girl gets some money. I really, really do. So yeah. I put together a diss track for the people that handled this case. I still fuck with the Polk County YouTube channel, but I have to do a diss song for y'all right now in honor of this young lady, because what I read in that report is disgusting. I am going to include the link to that article, and people can go back there and read that on their own. That was disgusting. What happened to that young lady was horrible. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for playing this song. It ain't terrible or nothing like that. And it ain't me, it's AI. Now you can do like AI music.
Yeah.
I titled it System on Trial.
This ain't personal. It's principle. When the system fails a child, somebody gotta speak. Risky behavior antique. How a child cry for help and y'all turn the other way. Badge heavy on your chest, but the truth too much to weigh. She said, I'm hurt, y'all said you lying, that's wild. Imagine being 13 and the law don't trust a child. Instead of cuffing the monster, y'all cuff the victim. Put her in the system, wrote her off like you ain't even listen. Forced apologies, man, that's cruelty in uniform. Protect and serve who? Cause she ain't feel protected at all. A month later, she recorded the proof. The same truth she told you, the one you said wasn't truth. Now the whole world watching and the lawsuit hit. Cause negligence ain't an accident when the pattern legit. This the system on trial, not a man, not a name. Yeah. It's the culture that blames victims.
And dodges the blame.
Yeah. When justice breaks down,
who gon' carry the flame?
Risky behavior antique.
We exposing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. See, leadership ain't loud press conferences and quotes. It's believing the unheard, lifting up the unheard notes. But y'all chose ego, chose pride, chose doubt, chose to silence a child while a predator walked out. 2 deputies, 1 sheriff, whole office in the frame, not for heroics, nah. For mishandling pain, 17 years for the uncle. But what about the scars from the people sworn to guard her, but left her with the bars? It's bigger than Polk County, bigger than one case. It's a mirror to America. Look at your own face. When the law fails the weak, who gon' answer the call? Cause justice ain't justice if it ain't justice for all. It's the
system on trial, not a man, not a name.
Yeah. It's the culture that blames victims.
And dodges the blame.
Yeah. When justice breaks down,
who gon' carry the flame?
Risky behavior antique.
We exposing the game.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah. For every kid unheard, every truth dismissed, every case where the system got the story flipped. We speak loud, stand firm, never swallow the lie. Cause silence is the reason so many victims still cry. Yeah.
Risky behavior antique.
We don't fear the truth. We fear what happens. but nobody tells it.
What up, Mike Dredd? I've been on live now for like 3 hours. Talking about Polk County Sheriff. 2 detectives face lawsuit over their handling of Grape victims case. I hate saying the R word, so I say grape. I know people are like, why do you keep saying grape? I hate saying that word. It's like an icky word to me. Before I close out, I'm gonna play that one more time, and then I got my risky behavior ENT AI song that I'm working on. But now I agree with you, Mike. No, I don't think AI can AI can outdo us sometimes and make things a little bit easier. You know.
Well, developing tonight, a woman from Polk County is hoping her story and a new lawsuit prevent what she endured as a child from ever happening again.
Yeah, she was 12 years old when she told Polk County detectives that she had been raped by her adoptive father. As 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Chris Hurst explains what happened next, added to her trauma.
I have a hard time to this day trusting anybody.
Taylor Cadle says her trust was first broken by her great uncle and adoptive father. She says raped her countless times for years, beginning when she was just 9 years old.
I was just hoping that it would end.
In 2016, when Cadle was 12, she told a pastor's wife, then a detective for the Polk County Sheriff's Office. But the detective didn't believe her.
Not even just her, but everyone around me wasn't listening and nobody was hearing me.
Cadle was charged with filing a false report and forced to write apologies to detectives and Henry Cadle, who didn't stop abusing his adoptive daughter. Taking matters into her own hands, she took photos of him raping her again.
I contemplated making that call and was trying to talk myself out of it for a good minute before I ended up, calling 911 that night.
He was finally charged and convicted of sex crimes with a 17-year sentence. Cadle's lawsuit against Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd and 2 detectives accuses them of violating her rights by punishing her instead of believing her. Tonight, Judd's office released this statement saying lawyers will file frivolous lawsuits for just about anything, including second-guessing 9-year-old criminal investigations, and then run to the news media attempting to get publicity for their lawsuit, adding they investigated best they could with what they knew at the time.
Institutions that were created to protect the public safety should ensure that children are treated with the dignity that they deserve.
Cadle says she is willing to relive her trauma.
I feel like I have to be the voice for some people who don't have a voice.
To make sure another child doesn't experience her horror. Chris Hurst, 10 Tampa Bay News.
Yep, and that's the only, that just, the fact that she was able to record him while he was doing this, it shows you how just depraved and insane and crazy this man is, and how his addiction, his sickness was driving him. Like, that's another thing that came across my mind, is the fact she was able to record him. He was just blinded. She had her phone out, just recording him do these evil things. Her phone's out, just recording him. And he's so blinded by his sickness. It helped her out, though. Thank God, because it helped her out. Him being blinded by his sickness, that she could just have her phone out and just take pictures of him. Yeah. Anywho, this risky behavior ENT, I'm Mr. Diabolical himself. My name is not Diabolical because I'm a diabolical person. I just took up that name because I talk about these diabolical cases and diabolical people. You know. Yeah. Let's see. What up, Mike Dredd? Yes, God made everything and everyone in his image. I am not one that believes in race, but unfortunately, the world does. It's a social construct. It's not even backed up by science. Anyone who don't believe me, type it in and look it up. But yeah, this is Risky Behavior ENT. I am here to spread and bring awareness. I am not an expert. I damn sure am not. I don't think I'm ever like I don't even think I'm ever the smartest person in the room. But yeah, I'm gonna play my last thing. I'm working on my own like AI song for my channel. And so I'm gonna be testing out a couple of different sounds, man. But I'm gonna play this and then I'm gonna be closing it out because I got some more editing and stuff I gotta work on, man. But I appreciate everybody that showed up. If you haven't done so, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, man. You know, for me, help me out, put me in the algorithm if you haven't thumbs up. Also subscribe, hit the notification. If you want to come back and hang out with me sometime. No. 'Cause I appreciate you all being here. I'm trying to work on All right. So this the intro. This is like one of the things. Which one did I like more? I think it's this one. All right, I think it's this one. It's because I end up be doing these crime stories and stuff like that. But I'm gonna play this one and then I'm gonna close it out. But I'm gonna try different sounds because I want to get a song, a sound that kind of like embodies my channel.
Stepping in the shadows where the truth don't sleep. Risky behavior, we dig down deep. Every lie, every secret that they try to keep. We expose that pain, let the real ones speak. Oh, cold nights, dark roads, where the stories unfold. Another case, another name, another truth untold. We break it down piece by piece, let the timeline breathe. Cause the facts hit harder when the world can see. Whispers in the hallway, blood on the floor. Motives in the silence, what they killing for. We don't chase clout, we chase clarity. Risky behavior, ENT, that's the legacy.
Stepping in the shadows where the truth don't sleep. Risky behavior, yeah, we dig down deep. Every lie, every secret that they try to keep.
We expose that pain,
let the real ones speak.
From the heartbreak victims to the ones who vanish. We bring light to the places where the hope got damaged. No filters, no fear, just the raw, real facts. Every episode a mirror where the culture looks back. We talk justice patterns, the cycles they hide. How the system fails people on the wrong side. But we rise and the lies, let the truth ignite. Risky behavior, ENT. We bring dark to light. So when the beat drops low and the story begins, just know we stand firm where the chaos spins.
For the lost, for the silence, for the ones unseen.
Risky behavior, anti.
We speak for the scene.
All right, that's it for me. I appreciate y'all. Be blessed, be safe out there. Stay aware. This is Risky Behavior. ENT, Mr. Diabolical himself. I appreciate you all. I can't wait to do another live because I got some suggestions in the chat on things to look up and stories to do. And so I'm excited to see the the new information I'm gonna have the next time that y'all see me. I appreciate you all. I am out of here. I'm gonna catch y'all next time.
Risky behavior.